Hi, everybody. We're the Skeleton Crew. If you're watching this video, well, statistically, if you're among our viewers, you're not watching this video. That is to say, we might be getting a brisk 200 views in the first day of this video being out. But we love our patrons, and so we will do it no matter what.
And eventually we'll get caught up, and hopefully those numbers will change.
Hey, we're getting there.
We will.
We are getting close.
We are.
Which means we're due to slide right back again.
Anything can happen.
Now, you may be asking yourself several questions at this point. You might say, like, who are these people? And we'll get to that in a second. You might say, doesn't the fact that these videos routinely underperform, like, dramatically compared to your other videos mean that you can command lower rates whenever you get sponsored ad reads in your videos? And I'd say yes. So why do we do these videos? Well, because we have patrons here at the Skeleton Crew. And you could become among them. That's my little plug for our Patreon. You could one day be one of our patrons. And if you're a patron at Basilosaurus tier or higher, you can submit questions to our black box that we throw into the ocean every periodically. And then we cast out a fishing line and we reel it back in. And then we see what questions are on the black box. Yeah. This tortured metaphor is to tell you we're kind of late on making a lot of these videos, and so you will notice that there are some themed questions in this video that we'll be releasing in May?
Late April, right?
Late April, I think.
Late April,
no,
early May.
May.
No, May. And those May. And many of these questions are themed about Christmas.
A couple of them are.
Yeah, some of them. It's amazingly not a very Christmassy Q&A. And that's fine. So, we will be fielding all of the questions that our patrons submitted for the month of December. The way that it works is that each patron at Basilosaurus tier and higher is entitled to ask one question per month. We've been a little flexible on this stuff because when we haven't recorded the video yet and somebody misses a month, we'd let them go back and fill that in, which is, of course, okay. And we'll try to, give you answers to the best of our ability. Some of these are things that are best answered by one person. Some of them are best answered by a few people. We do have a lot of questions with some meat today, and so we're going to do our best to go through these at a steady clip. To that goal, I'll finally answer your one probable remaining question, which is that statistically, if you're the one person where this is the first Skeleton Crew video you saw recommended to you, who's joining our channel for the first time, hey, you might not quite get the vibe here yet. I recommend you go watch all 150 or whatever videos we've put out over the last few years to catch up on what the dynamic is. There's a lot of lore between us. You may not understand why we all laugh if I say jokes come in threes. Right? You won't get it. And you have to figure out why. But I'm Dr. James Napoli, and I'm a real paleontologist. Or so I like to tell people. I'm a real paleontologist at Stony Brook University's Renaissance School of Medicine, where I teach human anatomy to health science professional students and do research on the evolution of dinosaurs.
My name is Amelia Zietlow. I guess I'm also a paleontologist. You'll see a theme here on this channel for the folks on the channel. I think by the time this comes out, my title will have changed, but it has not currently. And so I will introduce myself as a PhD candidate at the American Museum of Natural History.
Hi, everyone. My name is Scott Johnston, and I am a paleontologist. Specifically, I am the vertebrate paleontology fossil preparator and technician at Harvard University's Museum of Comparative Zoology.
Hi, my name is Alex Rubenstahl, and I'm a PhD candidate at Yale University.
Nothing, no extraneous things to say?
No.
Okay.
No. Nothing about Alex is extraneous.
I'm Dalton Meyer, also a real paleontologist. I'm a paleontologist at Yale University, where I am a PhD candidate, and where I if I've done my calculations correctly, by the time this video comes out, will still be a PhD candidate for 3 more days.
Oh, God. That's an anxiety-inducing sentence.
It fills me with terror. The pit of my stomach. It's like I'm on a roller coaster. But it's time we get off of the roller coaster of stress and onto the roller coaster of questions.
Of love? Oh.
Of love, yes. Roller coaster. The first time I heard that song was in the Beavis and Butthead movie.
Good movie.
It's a good movie. But I'm Dalton Meyer. Together, I should
Oh,
say.
yeah.
That's Zoom transfer.
We're the
We're the
skeleton
skeleton crew.
Yeah.
We're the skeleton
That's
crew.
us.
And this is our
Hello.
patron Q&A. So it's time to introduce the first patron who has the first Q. I typically take on the role of the question meister, the question monger, and today will be no different. Our first question for December comes to us. We've got two right out of the gate that are very similar, that are linked in a way. But we'll take them one at a time. So our first question comes from Gojira, who asks, who's your favorite paleo artist of 3 different eras, what Gojira calls the dinosaur doldrums, being pre-1960s, the Renaissance 1960s to 2000s, and Revolution 2010s to today. I
Those
will
are my
say,
favorite Matrix movies.
Can I make a quick proposition?
what's your proposition?
Can we combine this question and the next one?
We can certainly do that. So we will do that. So we'll combine it with the next question, which comes to us from Uber Eats Sugar Daddy, who then asks, what's our favorite piece of paleo art from each of those eras that I have just defined? The before the 1960s, 1960s to 2000s, and the 2010s to today. I think those are useful eras to bin things by. I would say, I don't know if I would call the pre-1960s the dinosaur doldrums.
I would,
because I think actually some of my all-time favorite paleo art comes from that period.
I think that was a Bakker quote, isn't it?
It may be.
I think I think that was like one of his cutesy phrases he coined in the dinosaur heresies. He was like,
I think you're right.
That
could
was
see
back in
calling
the
it-
dinosaur doldrums.
I could see calling it the Dino Dark Ages, but not the Dino Doldrums.
Well, in terms of the science, maybe, but in terms of the art,
Yes.
Yeah, it's
No
actually it is remarkably true of the like so little important dinosaur work was published after like between the 20s and the
60s.
and the 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, not that there aren't things, but it is kind of remarkable just how few things were named at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
But so the way we do this, folks, a little peek behind the curtain, is we have a document, and when possible, we write our answers down ahead of time just to organize our thoughts, and we'll just go in the order of who's written things down, and then if there's a gap, we'll figure it out as we go along. But I am first past the post in this one, and so I will say for the Dino Doldrums for the pre-1960s, my favorite paleo artist is probably Zdeněk Burian. I think he makes really, really, really good compositions, and all of his scenes are set in like well detailed environments. The dinosaurs are not always the best, especially in terms of anatomy, but they're comparable to his peers. And his mammals and like archaic humans are really good. He plays with color a lot. He doesn't go crazy with it. And I was actually just looking through. To get inspiration for this question earlier today, I was looking through the big paleo art book. And
I wish I had a copy of that.
There are some great Burian prints in there, such as, I should have put a bookmark in. That would have been smart. I'm trapped in Charles R. Knight land.
Oh,
It's also good. Also a good one, Charles R. Knight. But I think I prefer Burian. But like, where are you? His Iguanodon, I really, really like.
Yeah, that's a good one.
piece.
But it's not my favorite piece of the era. Because while Burian, I would say, is my favorite paleo artist of the era, my favorite piece of paleo art from this era is the Zallinger Age of Reptiles mural.
How
It's
convenient.
iconic. It's amazing. I've seen it in person. It's load bearing.
Of course you've seen it in person.
yes,
it's at your institution.
It's at my
Did
institution.
you, wait, you've seen that in person?
It's crazy to think, but yes, it's load bearing in terms of the history of paleo art, and load bearing in terms of the physical Peabody Museum, in which people asked us during the renovation, "Are you going to keep the mural?" And I was like, "Of course, it's extremely historically important and iconic for Yale. We wouldn't dream of getting rid of it." Also, we couldn't, because it is the wall. It's a fresco.
Yeah. I think
I
it's
actually didn't
the
know it was a
largest
fresco.
It might be the largest fresco.
in the world. It's larger than the Sistine Chapel, I think.
Yeah.
Well, that actually doesn't surprise me. I was actually a little bit when I went to the Sistine Chapel. I saw it. I was just like, okay, yes, it's big. Like I expected it to be enormous.
Yeah, the Age of Reptiles mural is huge, and I wonder if a quick Wikipedia would tell us if it is in fact the world's largest fresco.
Well, no, I have a very big can of it myself, but fresco. The soda, whatever.
Well done. The lemon lime soda. It doesn't say. I've not seen it easily, but I believe that to be true.
Apparently the Oh, okay, that's a ceiling fresco.
Maybe it's the largest non-ceiling. I don't know. It's big and it's a fresco and it's beautiful. And
I'm
it's
deciding
really
to spread misinformation, even if it. Yeah.
Silence truth. A cool thought is speaking. So that's my first bit. For the Renaissance, 1960s to 2000s, my favorite paleo artist of that time is Douglas Henderson, who may be my favorite paleo artist of all time, and actually is up there among some of my favorite artists of all time because he makes really beautiful compositions. Landscape art is in general my favorite kind of art. Like if I'm at an art museum, I will spend the most time looking at landscapes. I really like them, and I think Henderson really takes that and fits in the paleo aspect very well. He's got a series of paintings. I don't even know if it was intention. I mean, I'm sure there was intention behind it because it would make perfect sense. But he's got at least one painting for each period in the Mesozoic that is framed by you're kind of underneath and behind a large log and seeing what is behind it. And there's one for the Triassic, one for the Jurassic, one for the Cretaceous. Love those. They're great in color. His grayscale work also fantastic. I love those. Now, my favorite piece of paleo art from this era, and again, I think for the most part, I'm breaking trend of saying an art like my favorite artist, and then they did not do my favorite piece. But that's because it was hard to pick a favorite piece from this era. What I've written down here is Jurassic Park. Does that count? I think it does.
Yeah.
And that is my favorite piece of paleo art of all time, if it counts, because it's the reason I'm a paleontologist. But in the more traditional sense of like, visual non-motion pictures, just a still picture. Possibly there's a couple pieces of John Gersh that I think might be my favorite of the time. Either the rearing Daspletosaurus, that's the cover of the Dinosaur Heresies, or the rearing Barosaurus that he made to go along with the Rotunda Barosaurus at the M&H.
The perspective on that one is
I like it when the dinosaurs are
unbelievable
and are above you. Onto the present day, more or less, the 2010s to today. Who are my favorite paleo artists of this era? And I think it wound up being a tie because I remembered one of these people a little later. What I wrote down in more detail is Andrei Atuchin. I think he blends very nicely, like close anatomical and textural detail of the animals, and they're rendered very competently and like in great detail. Like all the scales are really nice of a dinosaur, for example. But he often portrays them in a well-realized environment. He doesn't like photo bash. If you go to the Denver Museum right now, and I think this is, ostensibly a temporary exhibit, but I don't know when they're planning on changing it for something else. They've got an exhibit on the Corral Bluffs site that they're working on, which is this like earliest Paleocene, like right after the extinction, right after the KPG. They're finding these nodules with all these mammals in it. And the walls of that exhibit are just big Andrei Atuchin murals of the environment. And it's like this like really beautiful forest with like dark brown tannin rich streams going through it and all these crazy mammals and turtles and crocodiles. They're really, really great. I think my late addition, who I would honestly probably say is my favorite modern paleo artist though, is Emiliano Trocco. Because he captures what I like best in paleo art, which is less, and I'm not saying this to say his like anatomy isn't good, because I think he also is really capturing the animals really well and with good fidelity. But the emphasis is less on I'm going to do this animal perfect to every detail, and more so I'm going to make a beautiful piece of art that has like stylized and atmospheric and really cool. And to that then my favorite piece of modern 2010s on PALEOART is his piece that I believe is titled, I'm not 100% sure that this is the title, but I think it's called The Big Luise, which is a portrait of an Apatosaurus. And I'll put it in our Discord to remind people.
It's that's a beautiful piece. That's one of my favorites.
But it's so atmospheric. And I really respond much more and am more into PALEOART that is like the animals that I think are cool, but in the art styles and like art language that I like beyond just, dinosaurs or prehistoric life. Those are my answers. And now it's on to Scott.
It is indeed. So I got some fun ones that I'm excited to talk about because I love PALEOART. I think PALEOART is just it's a really cool thought experiment. I love the artistic aspect of when it's done really, 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 really well. And like Dalton, I'm also a huge fan of environment and landscape paintings. When I go to art museums, I very frequently find myself in like the American landscape painters galleries, and like, oh God, I am and something that will also become very obvious in this list. I am a huge fan of dynamic light and color in things. So I'll start out with, my pre-1960s favorite is a little bit of a lesser known one, and that would be Konstantin Flyarov. Flyarov. It's not a name I say out loud super frequently, but he's a bit lesser known. And I will actually, James, I saw the lighting change on your screen. I will throw some pictures in our chat in our Discord for people to look at. So his stuff is very fun and dynamic.
Wow.
Right? It's so moody, it's so colorful. This one of the Paraceratheriums is just so cool.
He's really
it's
good.
so rad. It's so rad. And he has another one of a couple Saurolophus in a swamp that's just, it's almost monochrome. It's gorgeous. But my absolute favorite of his is this almost impressionistic painting of a classic matchup that we see often in PALEOART, but not going the way it normally does, of a T-Rex being beset by 3 Triceratops.
Cool.
That's awesome.
And it's so pretty. I love how impressionistic it is. I love how like loose the style is. It's so fun. It's such an awesome piece with such low detail that like you see the brush strokes so fully on there, but like you can tell what's happening. There's emotion in this. It's fun. It's very dynamic. And then my favorite paleo artist of the next era, the 60s to 2000s. Oh yeah, he's in there.
Yep.
Has got to be James Gurney. James Gurney is almost second to none. I think I would go so far as to say he is my favorite paleo artist and one of my favorite artists. That he is one of those ones who's just doing it better than pretty much anybody has ever done it. It is kind of funny that like, I know like we have talked a couple times about how like paleo artists that have like an art training are like they bring some sauce to it and stuff. And not to say that like you can't approach it from a different angle and still do a really good job, but like Gurney actually published he's published a couple art books, but he published one on color and light that I have heard several artists basically just say, nah, don't waste your money on art school. Read his book. it will tell you everything you need. And my favorite couple pieces from James Gurney is the Dinosaur Parade is classic. It's either that or his like cityscapes with the dinosaurs in them are just phenomenal. But I think the one that edges it out is the Skybax Rider. It is just it like I dream of this image. Like this is something that I have genuinely like fallen to sleep thinking about. It's just so damn good. So for the paleo artists of today, I have another tie, and that's between Fred Wirham and Giulio Lacerda. And I know for a fact that Fred watches our channel because of one of my favorite pieces that I'm definitely not biased in, which is his Chronosaurus devouring his son piece. It is my phone lock screen. I do not foresee changing it. I was going to say for the foreseeable future, but I think I can end the sentence there. It is so cool, so moody. It fits so well on. Yeah. Dalton's too. Yeah, let's go. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, look at that.
That is pretty cool.
It's so good. It's so good. It's absolutely stunning. What a moody, beautiful piece that we just happen to have a great personal connection with. My favorite one of my favorite one of Giulio Lacerda's is kind of hard to pick because actually in the spirit of phone of lock screens on things, all of my computers have Giulio Lacerda art as my wallpaper. But let me pull up this one so I can show you guys. He has so Giulio. I think it's a little bit unfair to say he's one of my favorite paleo artists because I think that like Dalton's answer of Jurassic Park being a little bit of maybe bending of the rules, I think Giulio is as well because he is obviously a photographer who has a time machine who just goes back in time and finds what these animals actually look like and takes pictures of them. Right. But my favorite one of his is actually not one that I have as the wallpaper on any of my devices at the moment. It's this one of, I believe, Momentosaurus and Tushungasaurus called As Above, So Below.
Just
that's really lovely.
Piece.
That's hot. I like that.
Unbelievably good. And again, you can see the running theme of my picks of very dynamic lighting, very dynamic saturated colors, all that sort of stuff.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. That's my picks.
Those are good picks.
So for my picks, I think I'm going to break trend here a little bit where my favorite artists are generally responsible for my favorite art pieces from those time periods. My favorite pre-60s paleo artist, Charles R. Knight.
Classic.
I mean,
knew
classic,
someone would say it.
Perhaps an uncontroversial take, although
it's a correct,
very daring
take.
Today. But no, he's just amazing. Really, in many respects, the first paleo artist. Like, not that he would have called himself that or that the term existed, and not that people hadn't done reconstructions of extinct life beforehand, but I think he was really the person who first thought this was an animal. Mm-hmm. I'm very experienced at depicting animals. Let's see what this would look like. Like, Waterhouse Hawkins obviously came before him, but I think Waterhouse Hawkins, for all of his skill, clearly had let's say, a tenuous grasp of what these things would have looked like.
Correct.
And
they're kind of fun, but
they're very
fun.
Oh,
they're
good. I love them as historical pieces and everything, but it's not like he was doing detailed comparative anatomy to understand what they would have looked like. He was just like, it's a monster, and we're going to eat dinner inside of it. Charles R. Knight does amazing comparative study and all of that to really understand the animals. Obviously, there are things we've changed since his time. My favorite pieces of his are not dinosaurs. I love his dinosaur pieces as historical relics. But his pictures of Ice Age megafauna, particularly mammoths, are stunning and have a life to them that I honestly found very affecting as a kid, because the AMNH is covered in these. Like the AMNH, like a lot of historical, or I shouldn't say historical, but older museums, has a lot of Charles R. Knight murals that are like integrated into the walls and into the halls. Like they've been there forever. And like specifically his mammoth painting, I think, which is at the end of the Hall of Advanced Mammals, so the end of the fossil hall circuit, is just like there's so much life in them. His paintings of Columbian mammoths, like these things really feel like animals, and they feel tangible in a way that animals should feel, which I found very affecting as a kid. Like dinosaurs are fun monsters, and I think it's easy for kids, and unfortunately for many people in our field, to not treat them as if they were real animals that really existed at one point. But with Ice Age megafauna, like that feeling of there's just a veil between me and this world that was here very, very recently. Like all of the Columbian mammoths, woolly mammoths, the Megaloceros, ground sloths, all of these things would have been present. Right. Oh, right. The La Brea Tar Pits illustration
piece is fantastic.
It's so good.
Right. I'm thinking of a particular piece.
While you're looking that up, James, whenever I show people Charles Knight stuff, I always like to qualify it with, or not even qualify it, but like put it in the context of that it really feels like the only thing that is like air quote dating these pieces is the understanding of the animals themselves.
Right.
Like if you look at his pieces of Ice Age megafauna art, where it's like these are much closer to animals that are more well known today, they look like something that could be painted just a couple of years ago.
Yeah, right. No, yeah, it's absolutely. If he were alive now, he would be one of the leading paleo artists with exactly the same level of skill and everything.
Yeah.
This is his, I believe this is his Columbian mammoth piece. And there's something like, I don't know what it is, something about the textural quality of it. Like, it feels like a long lost photograph. It feels like, to me, it's always felt like it's an image I'm not even supposed to see. There's something almost unsettling about it.
It feels like almost like it'd be a photo or like a naturalist's drawing from like an English, like an Englishman going on a safari to Africa in like the 19th century.
Yeah.
Ooh,
It's got that vibe to it. I feel very silly saying that I find there's something unsettling about it, but it's like it does. I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I get the sense from it that I think I got as a kid the first time I saw a dead body. Of like,
What?
no, sorry, that wasn't supposed to be that startling. Just this feeling of like this used to be alive, but like not in an awe-inspiring way, but in a very like, I think in a way that probes the anxiety around death and extinction.
Okay.
Like, I think for me, like this, I don't know what it is, but this to me feels so lifelike and so like a depiction of a living animal that the fact that it's extinct, I think I found unsettling as a child.
I get that.
Beyond a dinosaur, because like dinosaurs you never learn about except in the context that there's none of them left. But they don't remind you so much of a thing that's alive right now that you're like, oh my God, that could be here. Right? It's like in the sense that like I was a kid who read books where people died before the first time I lost a family member. And like reading a book where a character dies is sad. But it doesn't have anywhere near that kind of effectiveness of like knowing like, oh my God, this is a real part of life that happens. I don't know. Anyway, I love this piece. In terms of the middle of this era, I love all of the answers that have already been said. And so instead of repeating them, I'm going to go with another one. Brian Franczak, who passed away a few years ago, who we've talked about on the channel before.
Yeah.
I think what we will learn is that I love strong lighting and everything like Scott does. But what I like more than anything is a real like textural reality to something that doesn't need to be precise photorealistic painting. Often very photorealistic things don't have a lot of textural reality. Mm-hmm. Like I would say in that regard, like I love his pieces, but like Julius Chutney's pieces to me don't have that like that reality aspect to them. Like they're meticulously and perfectly done, but they don't have that like that extra layer of like it doesn't feel like I could touch it in a weird way, and that's completely, that's completely subjective. And I love Julius's pieces, but in terms of something I feel like I could touch or I feel like I could walk to this area, Brian Franczak's Pachycephalosaurus is just one of the most beautiful pieces.
Yeah.
I'm putting it in the Discord.
He's putting it in the Discord.
I'm putting it in the
folks.
Discord. Like, this is a real place that I could go. Right? That's
great. Yeah.
that's a real place. I feel like this just looks like it was painted referencing the woods around my house, the house I grew up in. And then continuing along a very similar theme, my other favorite pieces from recently, there's a few, and there's a few paleo artists and pieces. I think my favorite artists on aggregate from all of their work are Giulio Lacerda, who we've already talked about, and a friend of the channel, Hank Sharp. I love
Yes.
Hank's work.
Hello, friend of the channel.
Yes, it feels a little weird choosing somebody like I know and am friends with, but his work is phenomenal. There's a reason he's the only paleo artist I have commissioned, both for personal and professional projects. Like, what I'm saying is I love his work. That's why I've commissioned. Like, it's also that I know him. And I will presumably commission people who are not Hank at some point in my life. But my favorite piece of his, which is definitely stylized, but in a way that works for me, is his Stegosaurus piece, which was stylized to look like a Polaroid.
I like that one a lot.
And
It's
the way
so good.
he depicts the light coming through the keratin of the Rhamphotheca around the mouth,
That's
and like the
pretty cool.
chromatic aberration around
Oh,
the
no, yes.
edges.
Sorry, I got it confused with a different one.
That's okay. I love this piece a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Giulio Lacerda, I love as well. I love As Above, So Below, but my favorite one or my favorite set of his pieces are probably his early whale relatives.
Oh, they're so good.
You know what I mean? He like, God, let me find one. I know he very, like, I guess jokingly called them wheels, like whale seals, which
Yeah.
is good, and it's a good way to describe them. It is the only time I have seen things like Ambulocetus, Pachycetus, all of that, look like real animals. Like, there's all those terrifying art pieces of them where they look like demons a little bit. And I've never seen something where I look at them and I just say, like, wow, that's just what it really looked like. That feels like a plausible thing that could have existed.
Sure.
I think a couple of his that he did really good, did really well with the early whales are, he had that series that he did a while ago of like, they were the gorgeous renderings of these prehistoric animals, but marine animals, but it was like they were in an aquarium.
He did wonderful work with those, but I was thinking
Those are so much fun.
This one is my favorite, his Rhodocetus, which, I mean,
Oh, yes.
he's clearly a time traveler. But
Again, he has a camera.
look at this.
Look at
this
it.
little monster. Like, that's so...
That's probably the best stem whale. That
I
makes
love
me
to
think
see the
it's a
stem
real
whale.
animal.
Oh yeah, I love this.
I love that.
He looks like he'd be a friend. He
And
looks
while
cute.
I've never commissioned Giulio, and I shudder to imagine the cost, because I think you have to pay for the electricity to send the time machine back. I have actually collaborated with Giulio,
Yes.
which is something we were actually just talking about today for unrelated reasons. But I was the one, I don't think the only, but at least one of the science advisors for a series they did about Charlie, a Tyrannosaurus Rex, where they depicted every stage in his ontogeny. Like multiple
Well, what do you
episodes
know?
from inside of his growth. And maybe we'll flash some of those on screen here. It was a cool thing. I was still in grad school. It was actually Scott's the person who connected me with him and the team working on that. And it was a really cool experience to get to weigh in. I think the only thing I remember noticing and changing was the posture that the T-Rex was sitting in one scene, where we've talked about this, but it was in the twisted pose, and I was like, no, it's got to sit like a ratite. And he changed it for the piece, and they all look beautiful. Now, finally, and I know I've been rambling for too long, so I'm going to stop. But the Rudolf Hema piece called Usurper And I'm less familiar with Rudolph's like full body of work, but I remember thinking this piece had beautiful use of light. And while it doesn't quite look like a photograph, there is something that feels very real about it. And it is an artistic depiction of the hypothesis that Tyrannosaurine tyrannosaurs recolonized North America. And there's a fictional encounter between a pair of Asian immigrant tyrannosaurs encountering an Albertosaurian in like northern Canada for the first time.
I love
That is pretty
Rudolph's
cool.
so much.
Right.
The lighting. Ah.
The lighting, the poses of the two animals, like it feels like a scene from a movie. And like so much communicated through this, like the larger size of the Tyrannosaurs, obviously, the fact that the Albertosaur is clearly backing up, like this is all beautifully done. Incredible piece of art.
Okay, let me review. It's pretty much, I do agree with everybody so far on most of this. I think for 1960s, almost certainly Charles Knight also for me. And for the reasons that James said, like there's just something about them that feel more real than a lot of the others of that age, to me at least, in a style that, I don't know, I just really like it. Like obviously I really like both mosasaurs that he's done. I have one behind me here. This is the one that's at the Field Museum. But the one at the AMH, I got, when we took the glass off, I got a closer look at, and it's unbelievable. Like the same thing as the fossil itself. Like as cool as it is through the glass, somehow all of a sudden without the glass, like you notice everything on it. And it's insane. It's so cool. And so good. And the color, like that's what my computer background is right now. And just the shades of blue and everything are just wild, and like the little fish that are under the waves and stuff. Like it's just fantastic. It's so good. I feel like I'm forgetting something, but maybe not. No. Okay. For the middle one, I know less, so it's a little harder for me. I know less of that era. I think I agree with others for John Gersh's rearing things. Oh, also for Charles Knight. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention. I'm kind of combining answers as I go here. And at least that one also matches up. But his Smilodon at the AMH is also just very good, especially because where it is in the AMH, like in the fossil hall, at a certain time of day, it will be hit by the sun in a way that is just perfect. And they also have the Smilodon skeleton posed in the same pose next to it. And they also have the little miniature sculpture that he did of it. Like, it's just fantastic. It's so, and that's a like side note of the AMH, like something that I think is really cool is that at least I can think of at least two sets of fossils that are posed like the Charles Knight paintings, because there's the Smilodon and the Anatotitan are also posed like that. And the Allosaur that's like hunched over the car. Like there's a lot of that, and I think that's really, really cool.
AMNH really gets like stage presence for its mounts in a way that most museums don't.
Amelia, please continue. I'll be right back.
Okay.
We will circle back to that later in a different answer.
Oh, for the middle, right. So also AMNH, is it John Gersh is the one that did the rearing things with like the really bold shadows? Like I love that. That's really good. I also, because of the mosasaurs, really like Dan Varner's work on them. Like some of them are better than others. Some of them are a little crispy. But others, like I'll drop into the Discord. Like he's got, that one. Oh my God. There's one that I actually hadn't seen before. And I think it's the original, may or may not be in Maastricht. I don't know. I saw the print of it like through a window in one of the, there's like a building near the museum in Maastricht that has this thing, but whatever. I think this is supposed to be Prognathodon saturator, which is the big monster animal that's in the glass mausoleum in the courtyard of the musium, in the shrine. And he did a painting of it being scavenged by sharks, and it's just it also like feels like a photograph in a way, like it just feels real. And then his work, do I have it on here? I have a folder of artwork somewhere in here. He also did the work that is the cover of the newer version of Oceans of Kansas, which is, I think, a platycarpine giving birth, but I don't think. Oh, there it is. Which also is just like really nice and good in a way, because I think aquatic stuff is almost like an entirely different skill set, in my opinion. Like getting the lighting right and getting it to actually feel like they're in an environment rather than a void, and that's something that I think is difficult, or at least from my perspective, like it's difficult in works for mosasaurs for them to be integrated with the environment in a way that feels more than a blue void. And then modern stuff, there's a range because there's very different styles. I would say for the more realistic / traditional kind of stuff, no one has yet said Beth Zakin. So I will say that because, Lord, they're so good. Like her Ice Age stuff just is amazing. She also did a Tylosaur that looks very, very good. But just the landscape natural, like, because even then, like, she also does like extant environment murals that are just wonderful. And like I think it was Dalton said, like, I love landscape murals, and that's always what I'm drawn to at art museums as well.
Her stuff reminds me of basically, and this is another answer that will tie in a little later on, but like if the AMNH like mammal hall was paleo and they needed backgrounds for dioramas, I like her stuff gives me that vibe.
It's really good.
Well, what's the name of this woman?
Beth Zakin. Zakin. Yeah.
How do you spell that?
Zaiken.
Yes. She also did the new Sue mural, which I don't... some of her dinosaurs I like better than that one. That one I don't like as much as the Ice Age ones. The Ice Age ones just are on another level. There's this mural of some mammoths and horses, and there's another one with what I believe
it's so good.
Smoke trees. Everyday man on the block.
I don't know, but I'm assuming it's an American lion with some horses.
Sorry, Amelia. Who was your modern one you liked the most?
Well, I'm not through them yet. I have different ones for different styles. Right now, for like more landscapey style, Beth Zakin. For sculptures, there's two that I'm drawn to. One is I want to make sure I get his name right. Hold on a second. Ben Paisno.
Yes.
He did the Tyrannosaur with the big jaw muscles and like ceratopsians that just, and a Homotherium that's like really creepy but in a big cat way. Like really, really good. And then at PaleoFest this year I met Tyler Keeler, and he brought a Diabloceratops that he like painted to make it looked like it was like made of magma. Like it was black with like red highlights in between its scales. And it was just unbelievable. And I think the horns had like a texture to it.
It was so cool. It had a bobbin texture. They were doing like the ribbed horns.
Yeah.
It was ribbed for both of our pleasure, is what I'm saying.
Awful.
Well, but yeah.
Do you understand, Alex, that I had to not lean over and whisper that to Amelia while we were in an audience full of people?
You said that.
Oh, did I? I failed.
Yeah, what do you mean? I had to not.
You failed.
Do you understand the self-control I had? Neither do I.
Neither do I. I failed.
I also didn't have it.
Other modern artists, like obviously I agree with James on Henry. Like Henry is a friend and a collaborator, but also, and like I've also commissioned him as you can see. And he gets he gets some of these animals in ways that I don't see other artists. And like for me, obviously I pay attention to mosasaurs. Like they're an animal that not a lot of people seem to get right.
Wait,
I think
you
a lot of folks
pay attention to mosasaurs?
Huh?
You pay attention to mosasaurs?
I know, right? Who'd have thought? But like he's got an understanding of them that a lot of folks don't. And Atuchin also just gets them in a way that others don't. But the other thing about that Atuchin does that I really like are his ceratopsians. Like they just like the other animals that I like a lot are ceratopsians, and he just like that series of portraits that he's done of all the different like they all have these crazy beautiful colors and just so much personality like to each of them, and it's great.
Cool. All right. Oh, wait, I have to answer this question.
Yes.
Yes.
And actually, I'm sorry, I had one more that I forgot about that I actually made sure to look up. I'm sorry. It's such a completely different style to everything else, and that is DJ Washington.
Yes.
Who does the very, very bold, sharp line, hyper stylized stuff. So like I'm just trying to find a good example. Like
I looked him up. Those are pretty cool. I like those a lot, actually.
It's just it's so different from everything else. Like I really love sharp angles and bright colors, and
that is not correct.
Anyway, I am now done.
You guys have kind of boned me because you've said most of the good ones. And I like to present diversity in my answers. So I tried to keep track of the ones people said by jotting them down. But we'll see if I succeeded in thinking of ones that you didn't. So for the old timers, I want to start out with Sir Richard Owen, who made dinosaurs up, and they're fake, so he's the ultimate artist. Just
the
kidding.
Dinosaur artist.
I'm gonna reveal my brief invertebrate brain for a moment, and I'm going to throw some early credit to Ernst Haeckel. Haeckel. He illustrated a bunch of like fossil invertebrates in these really cool like black, white 2D. A lot of Eurypterids. They're not like, I don't know. It's minimalist, but I think they look really cool, and I like kind of minimal styles like that sometimes, but not all the time, because some of my choices will reflect. How do you say this guy's name? The guy who did, okay, so for other old timers that haven't been said, the guy who does, and this kind of goes into like an old piece I like, the Brachiosauruses in the lake.
That's Burian, I think.
Oh.
Did we already say him?
We did. Let me just confirm that it's the one that I'm thinking of.
No, it's definitely him. Okay, never mind. My other old head that hasn't been said, obviously, like I'm a big Zallinger. The Zallinger mural is the best, and my choice for old art I like a lot. Yeah, that's exactly the one. And Knight is also goated in the sauce.
In the sauce.
But there's this guy named Athenio something. Athenio. Athenio. Fuck, what's his last name? I only wrote down his first. Abel. Athenio Abel. And he's like this old timey. His paintings look like kind of like in color medieval beast tapestries. Like they're very dense. Here, I will.
I was about to say, I don't even know how to go about guessing at how to spell this man's name.
Athenio Abel. Othenio Abel. So they're these kind of very rich.
Oh, yes. Oh, no, these are stunning.
Yeah, so they evoke to me like an older style of art, which makes sense because he was an older style of man. But I find these very charming and kind of evocative of like just a very different view of life. Like, you know, to Charles Knight's credit, when I see his images, I'm like, this is like a man making art in a style, but who fundamentally understands the animals in like a modern way, versus like some of the older pieces where they're still like monsters, which is fun. All right. Now, my 1960 to 2000, and if some of these guys aren't technically the 2000 cutoff, I don't care. and I did this on vibes. So we said John Civic, right?
I don't think anyone said John
nobody
Civic,
said John
actually.
Civic yet.
No.
Civic
worthwhile
Sweep.
inclusion. Absolutely.
Yes. So his favorite, I don't know the name of it, but I just have to. His favorite piece of mine. Where is it? Yeah. You know what I mean. Shut up. Is like a Troodon is like on the right frame, and it's looking down at a sandstorm going across the Gobi. And it's so cool. And there's like, and his Ceratosaurus kind of framed in the foreground with a big Brachiosaurus looming over it. Just very iconic. I remember seeing it in books I read as a youth. Most of these artists are included here because they were in books I liked and were important in my development. But yeah, his composition's great. Raul Martin.
Yeah.
He's also, as the kids say, goated in the sauce.
Kids do not say this.
I'm making the children say it.
We're changing. You're no longer goated with the sauce. You are
goated in the sauce now.
You are in the sauce. It's not with.
Get in the sauce.
You will eat the bugs. You'll get in the sauce.
Roses are red, violets are blue. Alex has a gun. Get in the sauce.
But yeah, so like an iconic one of those. He's done some of these great illustrations of like the Gondwanan stuff. There's like the Suchomimus being attacked by a Sarcosuchus. Iconic. We love it, folks. Actually, he also did the Dinosuchus jumping out at the. He does a lot of crocodiles jumping out.
It's
jumping
cool
out at dinosaurs, but it's cool. So who cares? Who else do I have? Oh, so a little different in kind of a less like not classic, but a less like accurate. I don't want to say not accurate style, but Ray Troll. Did anyone say Ray Troll?
No, not yet, but also
Ray
a good choice.
Troll. Let's go.
Love Ray Troll.
He's got like all his pieces have such like personality and all this fantastic color in them, and they're so fun to look at.
Something I miss at the Denver Museum is that when they renovated their fossil hall back in like the 90s, it's the only one I've ever known, so I never got to see what it was like before. But I think Ray Troll, helped do a lot of the art with it. And then they also incorporated a bunch of Ray Troll art into kind of the museum cafeteria. And for the 90s to the early 2000s, really like up till at least college and probably maybe even grad school when they changed it.
Yeah.
But they had all of these like really stylish Ray Troll, like T-Rex running, Mosasaur, like various things. And they were in kind of like monocolor of like, there'd be like a green one with like black lines and be like a blue one with like black lines. And there was little like stylized kind of glyphs all around them. It was very much a mix of like Ray Troll's style combined with kind of the late 90s, like World Cafe style. And I really liked that. And I'm sad that they've kind of modernized the cafeteria, and it sucks.
It's
lost some of that charm. It doesn't suck, but it lost the Ray Troll charm.
I had to look this one up, but I thought it would be a good call out anyway. But John Rosengrant was one of the prime sculptors for the Velociraptor models in Jurassic Park. And I was thinking, like, what is a more impactful and iconic piece of paleo art than those Velociraptors? And there's not much besides the T-Rex. And in the short amount of time I had when I thought of that, I didn't do enough research to find out who else worked on that. But like the Stan Winston studio in terms of 3D art, wow, those sure are some cool looking dinosaurs.
Now, is he the one who became a fundamentalist Christian and built the dinosaurs for the Creation Museum?
I hope not. That'd be a bummer.
I don't know which one it is, but I know one of the people who worked. Like, that's why they've got such accurate dinosaur animatronics.
Their Simosuchus is very nice in the Ark encounter.
It's so good. It's so pretty.
Now, my in all of these names, my absolute favorite of all of these guys, though, of this period, and probably some of my favorite pieces of PALEOART are all Wayne Barlow pieces.
Yeah.
What springs to mind, the cool Ceratosaurus. But probably the piece of art I think that most, like, when I was looking I don't even remember what book it was, but it was a book, and I had dinosaurs in it. And I remember like flipping a page and being like, wow, that's awesome. And not just because it's a dinosaur, but like the pink Deinonychus.
That's
like,
yes.
That's probably one of my favorite pieces of PALEOART ever.
Wasn't it in like an alphabet of dinosaurs or something like this? I think that we've had this conversation.
Yeah.
Before.
I think so.
Yeah, it was. I think that's also where Nanotyrannus was.
Yep, this is one that I bought recently because I decided I wanted it. Because I remembered it from the school library. Dinosaur alphabet.
Yeah, just incredible. Mwah.
Every one of these is goated. I mean,
shading.
It's
the spooky Nanotyrannus.
It's so spooky. It's our moderator warning on our subreddit. Or subreddit. Jesus Christ, our Discord.
Yes.
You're embarrassing yourself again.
All right, I'm
There's a great, like a Mamenchisaurus in there, or like some sauropods.
Oh, they're so good.
Oh my god, they're so cool. There's one of like a sauropod walking through like a mud flat with like lightning in the background. That's one of my favorites.
Mm. Is that the Seismosaurus?
Maybe it's Seismosaurus.
I always loved the Xenotarsosaurus in this book.
Yeah.
Which I will show as soon as I find. I'll try and find this sauropod for you.
Maybe it's like an Apatosaurus or something, and I just...
Are you sure you're not thinking of the Mark Hallett piece?
Maybe I am. Hold on, let me look it up.
Well, he looks that up. I'll show Xenotarsosaurus. I always loved the colors in this one as a kid.
Mm.
And like it's sitting next to the big dead plesiosaur. On the
I am thinking of that Mamenchisaurus, but it's very good. Thank you. Now for the modern era, you said most of them. But we said Julius, right?
Mm-hmm.
We said Andre.
We mentioned Julius in passing. Actually, we didn't actually feature Julius.
No one declared Julius yet.
No
if you'd like to declare Julius,
I declare Julius. I think his stuff's very pretty.
It is.
It is. Yes.
In terms of like more modern artists that have impacted me, I like Louis V. Ray's 2D work a lot.
Yeah. Oh god,
like,
it's so good.
Honestly, probably I think you can like trace. There is a direct line between the very cool Wayne Barlow Deinonychus and Louis V. Ray's like grotesque turkey Deinonychus.
Mm-hmm.
That grotesque in a good way. I love them.
Mm-hmm.
His art, I think, was important to me because it's like the first time I saw PALEOART that like just fundamentally was like, oh wow. They don't have to look like what I thought they looked like, which is cool. And if you're like 10, that's a pretty cool thing to like organically discover for yourself in a library.
Mm.
So he's pretty good. I want to shout out to Joshua Knoop, who does these great little biome, like apparently just painting them on stream. I don't watch the stream, but he posts them, and those are great because they're all like very stylized, like not even stylized, but very specific. It's an action or a lighting, and he did a piece like a Devonian brackish waterway with some Eurypterids and weird fish in it that just reminded me of wading around like the mudflats and tidal pools of where I grew up, and like watching like the crabs and fish swim around. And I was like, wow, it's like I was there. Those are my choices. I don't have a specific favorite piece necessarily. I think I guess I said I really liked that Eurypterid one. I also like Hank's cover or Henry Sharp, I guess, Lamau. His croc cover for the anatomical record.
Oh yeah.
Is I like that a lot, and not just because it's about early crocodile morphs. I think it's a dynamic and fun opening, and etc. Okay, let's do the next one.
Yes, those are all great answers.
I think we've talked about every PALEOART.
A very comprehensive question.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
So thank you for those questions.
No, I just want to ruin this take.
Great, thank you.
But thank you very much for those 2 questions. And the synergy of them was nice, and that we knocked 2 out at once. So while it has been 40 plus minutes, 2 very long questions. So we're doing great. But we're going to try and keep things at a good clip here. Our next question comes to us from Dinosaur, who asks us to describe your dream dinosaur hall in a museum. What species would be there? Is there any specific poses? And what would your centerpiece be? And
another nice, quick, and succinct answer.
Yeah, I'll start. And I will say that I didn't really have I didn't answer the latter 2 parts of the question, and I'm sorry. I don't have an idea for like a specific pose or a centerpiece. I think the centerpiece would depend person to person who came to visit my ideal hall of like what they would consider to be the like great thing. It would probably be one of the sauropods. I would this would be a very expensive museum to make, but essentially if you take the idea behind the fossil hall at the Carnegie Museum and you expand that out into a huge expansive space, it would be a walk through time done in the vein of the Carnegie Museum. And so what I mean by that is that the main displays would be integrated with some environmental things, and you can get very close to them. There would be little antechambers before you went into a specific like reconstructed formation, essentially, with some preamble signage explaining like what you were about to see, and maybe a few supplemental little things in cases. And then you would step into large spaces where you could kind of walk fairly freeform around, mounted skeletons that are surrounded by like region appropriate faux plants and murals around depicting the paleo environment. And there would be very little in the way of like plinths or anything up on something. Mm-hmm. I want people to get as close to these things as they can to appreciate the sense of scale of these animals. For like a marine section, maybe there's like a staircase that goes down and that represents going under the water. And then, there's like a mosasaur coming by or something. But I want you to get close. I want you to get really close to these skeletons. And I would want at least the major players of the Morrison and Hell Creek. Obviously, those would be like the two big halls. But another idea I had for a display that I think would be really cool would be an Egg Mountain mock-up of actually reconstructing the nest site with multiple mounted adult myosaurs around the nest, full of little babies and tons of little things of like all the small animals they found, which is also peppered throughout the rest of the exhibits of like tons of small skeletal reconstructions of like maybe a 3D print or some kind of well-made reconstruction of like all the small animals. And then next to them is a case showing the actual fossil material. So you can appreciate that like you're in kind of an entire osteological ecosystem as much as you could be. I want the sauropods to be tall, some of them rearing, but I want like necks up, brachiosaurs, humongous things. And then maybe some like low ambient noise.
Ooh.
And a non-negotiable is a team of well-trained docents that take people on guided tours. Because I find that those are often like, even as a specialist in this field, I love going on a guided tour by someone who knows the museum.
It's fun
because they can tell, like, not only do they tell you stuff about, the science and what the animals are and like what you're supposed to, what message you're supposed to be getting out of the exhibit in terms of educational value. You also learn interesting things about the individual specimens, or like, hey, like when we were putting this up, we had this issue or whatever. Gotta have docents.
A little history.
That's my dream dinosaur hall.
That sounds great.
So mine is it's similar elements in a couple ways. Is that mine is something similar to what the Smithsonian did. I'm a big fan of, especially like they have the section with the T-Rex and the Triceratops and the Edmontosaurus that is kind of like, to use Dalton's phrase, an osteological ecosystem of the Hell Creek. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love that, with everything down to like the turtles and crocs and stuff and things that were all over the place. But I would love it to be like something I said in the previous answer. Essentially, I would like it, one, to be more globetrotting and just kind of like showing things from just absolutely all over the place, because the Smithsonian's mostly North America. And two, I would want it to be almost like an AMNH African/North American styled diorama with mounted skeletons, and for the extinct taxa, with like the gorgeous paintings and stuff in the background and everything. And ultimately, my vision is that like you would go through this as like these snapshots with these fossils there into these like prehistoric ecosystems, showing all of these different critters there, and have a nice little touch at the end as we approach modern day, is that once we start to encounter ecosystems that feature species that are still alive today, those ones are taxidermy. But they're interacting with the fossil, with the mounted skeletons. Like I have this idea of like a diorama that's like southern, like a La Brea style, like Southern California sort of thing, where it's like a taxidermized mule deer getting wrestled down by a Smilodon skeleton.
That's
and stuff.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, Scott, I read this when you wrote it down, and this is one of the things that I've read that made me mad. Like actually mad that I didn't think of this, because it's such a good, cool idea.
Oh, thank you. This has been this has been something that's just like been sitting at the back of my mind for years. Like I'm not sure if James remembers, because it was a fever dream, but on our incredibly long road trip, I think I at one point talked about this.
We did, and I was about to ask, did you give me this idea, or did I independently have this idea?
I gave you this idea when we were having, oh my God, it was at the diner at the end when we were talking about how you would do a museum.
Yes.
It's good you went first, Scott, because James was about to stolen valor you.
No, I actually wasn't going to talk about this specifically, but it was going to be one thing I mentioned, so I'm glad that Scott was able to get credit for it. So
I hope I don't get scooped, because I have a great idea that I didn't write down.
All right. Is it my turn now?
Yes,
okay.
I am done.
Spake.
So, I don't like walkthrough time halls. I don't like walkthrough hall times. I do love walkthrough hall time. That's my favorite time. That's the time when you're at the museum.
And you walk through the halls.
Walk through hall time.
Oh, God.
Dalton and I were accidentally up till 4:30 last night discussing detailed aspects of reptile systematics before we both realized it was 4:30 a.m.
Jesus Christ, you were?
Yes.
Yeah.
I left you guys at 2:30, and there was no conversation. I thought
the conversation
you had actually.
The conversation
said,
began again.
I'm going to go to bed too, and I said, okay, good night.
It didn't happen.
We didn't go to bed.
We did not go to bed.
Evidently not.
I call this getting Dalton locked, and everybody in my family knows about this, and there's two reasons it happens.
What?
Fascinating.
Dalton and I
Is
are
it
both,
terminal?
It's not terminal, I don't think.
Isn't that how you get pregnant?
Well, not for me, because I'm built different than that. But no, there's two reasons it happens, all right? One is that I like Dalton, and two is that Dalton and I are both gremlins who have no discipline over when we go to sleep.
This is
so
true.
we'll both
Jesus
frequently
Christ.
just wind up still on a Discord call because we both think maybe there's 5 more minutes of video games in this day before I let it go. And then we're up till 4:30 talking about detailed aspects of reptile systematics. Anyway, I don't love walk-through time halls. And so I wouldn't personally do one of them if I were designing an exhibit. I like the AMNH approach to make it a phylogenetic organization, because that's a really important aspect of how we do biology. I'm a big proponent of older styles of museum stuff where like you do engage with it from a perspective of like people don't know this, so we have to teach them. Like I do think there's a little bit of a race to the bottom with museums where it's like everything is multimedia screens and everything now, because the assumption is if you challenge your visitors at all, they won't want to come back. And I don't think that's true, because the AMNH has many historic halls that are not particularly appealing to the public as made. Like the Hall of Reptiles and Amphibians is basically a textbook, and it's always full of people anyway. So I don't think
it's a very cool haul.
It's a great haul.
It's a great haul. I think you get a lot through artistic presentation. And what I would do is arrange it phylogenetically, where I wouldn't have one centerpiece because there's no centerpiece of a phylogenetic tree, but you would have kind of local centerpieces, right? You'd have like select clades you're illustrating. You can't do every clade, obviously. But if you do, say, dromaeosaurs, or you could do paraves in a hall, have these, have your central area where all of the skeletons are, and show the lineages splitting off from each other, right? And have them all arranged in a way that they culminate in something, right? I've always particularly had in my head this vision of a bunch of bird-like dinosaurs with the lineages splitting, and they're all in various poses of like running or leaping or something, and then you finally get these early paraves or these early aves that are actually flying, right? They're actually off the ground. And then you transition, like what Scott said, you don't just have fossils, you now transition to taxidermy. And so you have these mounted skeletons of all of these dinosaurs giving way to this explosive radiation of like thousands of taxidermied birds of every species, also arranged phylogenetically. So you focus a lot on the artistic presentation of each centerpiece. Like you could do something very cool with T-Rex, obviously, but I would focus it less on fossil ecosystems and more on lineages and try to track what they do. I think the AMNH had a lot of spatial constraints in how it was set up. So this is something that I think would be best where you have a lot more flexibility with that. Like if you're building a new museum from scratch, because the AMNH had to fit it into buildings that already existed and were not built for that sort of display. And I think the thing that hurts it with the AMNH is something they couldn't control, which is just, you've got a lot of alcoves and stuff because you have like a fairly narrow hall. And if you want clay, you want to have a clade with everything together. So you've got like in the Hall of Vert Origins, especially like an Actinopterygian alcove and a lizard alcove and all of that. I would prefer, if we're doing a lizard hall, you have that and you have these different lineages and you have the centerpiece. And maybe if you have enough, you do have sidewalls where you can actually see the lineage. Like you have a painted thing on the walkway that represents the lineage, and then it continues over to a side panel where you could do a detailed shot or a detailed, I'm talking like it's a photography thing, but you do like a detailed kind of focus on one clade. So maybe for lizards, you do one of those with snakes or something. And you're like, this is not even to show you more of the diversity, but this is, we want to explain some traits that snakes have, right? And you have like illustrations, animations, make use of multimedia stuff, have screens that are showing cranial kinesis or something. Like use it all, but use it all in a way that's cool. Although I'd rather, more than a screen with cranial kinesis, I'd love a 3D printed snake skull that's like 5 times too big. That's moving, actuated by motors. That's moving all the time.
That'd be cool.
I mean, the AMNH tried that.
It did. And I mean, like, to some degree, I think, like, I think it's very of its time. If the AMNH ever renovates, I'd be very interested to see what they do. Because, like, a lot of those multimedia things, like...
Oh, no, I meant the skulls of the Edmontosaurus and the Triceratops.
Oh, yeah, I remember when those used to move.
Yeah, that are broken down and just don't move anymore because they were supposed to show the different chewing actions.
That'd be cool to see.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think basically my philosophy with museum design is you can get away with quite a lot in the organization and what educational content you're trying to convey if it is an inspiring space. And I think that focusing on like a union of the art and the science is key. And it can help you get around these issues where you might say, like, phylogenetics is an esoteric concept. We're going to lose the public if we make that the focus of our hall. I don't think that has to happen. And so I would really dedicate my energy to saying, like, what's a version of this where kids will come in and even if they don't get it, they're going to leave saying, oh my God, I want to go back. Because that's ultimately what you got to do when you have a museum. That's the most important thing.
I'm also glad, James, you brought up a point early in your thing that I'm going to tack onto my museum briefly. Okay. Which is that there will be no touch screens. Good. There will be no touch. There may be video. There may be some video displays that like would repeat a video or something. That's not, egregious. But there will be no interactive touch screens. There may be interactive elements, but they will all be physical, tangible, tactile things.
No touch screens.
No touch screens. No apps. The most you might get.
No shit you have to download.
The most you might get is one of those physical things you like hold up to your ear that that does like an audio tour if you want such a thing.
One thing I would be okay with, though, and I'll just finalize it here, is QR codes for detailed things that you can scan with your phone. If it's like, we can't make an exhibit about this, but like, here's a, scan here if you want to see more about cranial kinesis in snakes or something. And it like links to a fairly detailed page where it's like, here are the muscles involved, here's what happens. And like, basically you can use it to add and say like, if you're the 1% of visitors who wants to know even more about this, you can read it here, but it's not like visually clogging the main museum. I would also use that for translations so that you don't have to have like, because I think accessibility is good, but I think it hurts signage when you have to have like multiple languages duplicating the same text. And so what I would say is like, you make sure there's an instruction at the beginning of the museum that says like, if you can't read English, I would assume English is probably the language I'd be building a museum in, but maybe not. But if you can't read this language, scan with the QR code and you will see a translation in any language that you speak. Right?
Is that message going to be in English?
Yes,
That's
way
what I was
it's
thinking.
impenetrable. That could be in all languages.
Every single one?
Every single language.
Okay, Amelia.
You're a linguist.
Including Esperanto.
Name every language. Speak every language.
All right, Amelia, speak your truth.
I've been trying to like conceptualize it because I can see it. I can see different versions of it. I think
That's such a good idea.
to Scott's point that I think it would be great to showcase things from around the world. However, that's difficult with getting those fossils and getting casts of those fossils to be able to actually show them. I think that would be difficult. And then the way I've been thinking about it, how I would want to lay something out like this would be that I'd want it to have some kind of narrative that is followed through the course of it. And kind of the thought that I had is I wonder if there's a way. So it would be, in a sense, a walk through time in North America, because we have to kind of limit ourselves, like vaguely in North America, because we kind of do have to limit ourselves in that way. With, at least I'm thinking, if I'm going to have real fossils, I'm not realistically going to live outside of North America. So that's what I'm envisioning here. But also I can see a couple different stories that can be told. And the way that I've been kind of thinking about, like, first of all, for logistics, very diorama heavy, or like whether or not, like not necessarily like the old school behind glass Akeley style, because I think that is just logistically a little more difficult, but also it's less accessible to research. But like skeletons and things mounted within dioramas so that there's like plants and everything, and maybe even like little critters and little like models of and some of the animals are models or sculptures. But the idea that I'm coming back to is like at the beginning of it, you're walking through, like we're probably gonna pick up with the Cambrian and go from there, or like just before the Cambrian and go from there. And then when you get to, I don't know my age is probably the Devonian, or probably just after Devonian. You get to pick a lineage of a sort. You get an option. Like here, like our 5 lineages, 5 little critters or a plant, I think would be fun. And they're color coded. And so there's a way that as you progress through time, you can follow your organism and like major steps in its evolution. So if you pick like, I won't say Tiktaalik because like obviously there will be Tiktaalik. And I think maybe that's the first major split is like, are you interested in vertebrates, invertebrates, or plants? And we're going to go from there. And then at that point, I don't know, like it would be basically mammals, squamates, archosaurs.
Sure.
And follow that. And if you pick the mammal branch, that will eventually bleed into Ice Age and human interactions with megafauna and modern day humans and stuff like that. And then it would blend into, in my vision, this is not a dinosaur museum. This is a natural history museum. And so it's important to me that it seamlessly transitions into modern flora and fauna, classic Akeley style dioramas of like North American plants and animals and environments and things, because I think it's very important to the museums that I have been most impacted by personally are very, very locally tied to wherever they are. So I think about obviously the Milwaukee Public Museum, very, very tied to Milwaukee specifically, in that there is, in a different way, and not really a natural history way, but there is a completely immersive exhibit called Streets of Old Milwaukee. You walk through the doorway and you're on cobblestone roads with little houses modeled up. The ceiling is dark. There's ambient like street sounds, and you're transported to like the 1800s Milwaukee. It's insane. Like all of a sudden, like you're just there, and there's like little houses that you can look in to see like what things were like at that time. But stuff like that, that's very And then the other option, the more paleo option or natural history option that I can think of, is the Sternberg Museum, which has the fossils are, I think they're on one floor, and then the floor above it is they have this diorama, which, like Dalton said, for the underwater part, you go underwater, which the important part is there's also a beach. There's a Dolichorhynchops and some birds and stuff on the beach, and also the dead Niobrarasaurus. And then you go underwater, and there's a model of Zaphactinus tylosaurus, the big pancake clams, and stuff like that. So this is a little convoluted, but what I'm envisioning is there are two major paths through the museum. One that's mostly above the ground and one that's underground. The underground one is aquatic. So if you're following like fish or something, or squamates, obviously would eventually lead you to Mosasaurus and stuff like further on in the Cretaceous and that kind of stuff. But I'm envisioning kind of like this, almost like a choose your own adventure kind of situation, where there's like kind of at each like point in time, there's lineages that are highlighted that you can kind of follow through, and they're surrounded by dinosaurs and everything else as you go. Like, obviously, I know what makes money in museums, and it's T-Rex. So like there's going to be a Hell Creek component, and that, though, for me, it's very important that it's very dynamic. And also there is a Triceratops or Torosaurus that is also either rearing up or otherwise like just as impressive. Because something, I don't know, I think ceratopsians could be more impressive in their mounts. And like thinking of the Smithsonian, one of the mounts that stands out is not the ceratopsian, but the Stegosaurus. That's like totally bodying that is the thing with the horns.
Ceratosaurus. You almost had it.
Yes. Yeah. So like there are like big things happening, but it's almost not the point. Like the original conception I had, I got kind of too complicated, but I think it'd even work if you narrow it down completely to like, it is technically a human evolution path. Like you're following, like, yeah, obviously you go through fish and then Tiktaalik and then little like rodent-y things that you're just kind of following along the way. And then all of a sudden we're in the Ice Age and stuff like that. And I think that would be the story, basically. Humans. I think it'd be more fun if you had options to follow other critters or like to justify there being an underwater thing. But
will there be a big cave?
A big cave, of course. Why not?
No museum is complete without a cave.
Will I be trapped in the big cave when I get bad news?
You know, I just remembered this. When I was talking to about one of the Morrison, some of the Morrison small theropod stuff, that's at the Cincinnati Museum. I was like, oh, by the way, I have to, it was their like curator or VP. And I was like, I have to let you know that the cave was one of the best things I've ever done at SVP. And he's like, I'm very happy to hear that. Well,
yeah.
He's like, we were hoping people would just get obliterated and wander through there.
The cave rips ass. It's so good.
It does.
It's really fun.
The cave is so cool.
I have no context for any of this.
You didn't experience the cave.
Yeah. So anyway,
it's the cave.
Yes, there could be a cave, because really what is really crystallizing for me right now is I am just making my version of the MPM that's more paleo focused, because the MPM's Fossil Hall Third Planet starts with a cave. It's small, it's smaller scale. There's not running water, but it does look slimy. It does somehow smell like a cave.
Cool.
But I think it's just because it's a very old museum, but like in a good way. I don't mean that derogatorily, but like you do start there. And I think in this kind of a walk through time setting, like starting in a cave is not terrible to be like, oh, look. And then, I don't know, you step outside and Earth is hell because it's, the Archean period or whatever. Maybe there weren't caves then. I don't know.
It's 500 degrees in that room.
Right. It could be. No, but anyway, like, but yes, there can be a cave. Absolutely. Or that could be part of the natural history part, because there are caves in the Midwest, which is where I would envision making this situation.
Well, that's awesome. That's, I think, a very good idea for a museum. And I'm delighted to say that while some people drifted close to my ideal natural history museum layout, no one actually got it. So, I mean, so I'll say it. I agree with James that I prefer a phylogenetic approach to museum layout. And maybe I'm biased because I like the AMNH. But who cares? However, I'm envisioning something a little bit different. It would need to be unconstrained, and it would have to be built in a country just thinking along the lines of Amelia, where that country itself has a rich fossil record, where you could basically do a history of life on Earth almost exclusively using, so like basically China or the US. Maybe a few other places. The idea is a vast, almost like I'm imagining like a warehouse almost. And it is designed in such a way that you start, and it is a phylogenetic diagram. This is explicitly set up from the beginning. However, it is also a walk through time. Each lineage, and it's not like, lined up by million years, but like depth-wise into the museum, into the depths of the building, it is arranged temporally. So you would start in like the Cambrian, and you would like pick a line, and you'd walk down, and see trilobites, and like branch off and branch off and branch off and branch off. However, it is open-ish concept. So it is guided by the walking paths and displays, but say you're looking at like some theropods from the Jurassic. There's like an Allosaurus display. If you turn your head and look to the right, like lateral to where you are is a Stegosaurus, if you decided to walk down like the little ornithischian path.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you want, you can just kind of cross over. You're like, oh, I want to go check that out. So like it persists in one direction, but it also functions as a walk through time. The other thing I would like to have in this is scattered throughout the phylogenetic section, live animals. So like for the arthropod section, bug zoo stuff, small reptiles, small amphibians, kind of like right, you get to the temnospondyl part, and you're walking, it's like a little alcove, and there's like some fun temnospondyls, and then there's some salamanders and frogs and all sorts of good stuff in pretty little enclosures. That is my ideal. I have an enormous amount of money and space and can do what I like museum layout. Because it lets you, it lets you get a little bit of the best of both worlds. But it also incorporates, I think it's important to have kind of living animals in your fossil display sometime. Like obviously there's like issues with piping water through the walls because you don't want those, you don't want to flood, but I don't know. I think it ties it together if you could like, you do something like James's Paravian alcove, but then like, it opens up into like one of those cool aviaries that like the Smithsonian has that's full of like extant birds.
Oh yeah. I mean, that was always like, I abandoned this because of the impracticability of it, but I always wanted to have a natural history museum that is fully integrated into a zoo.
It's also, I mean, that'd be amazing.
It feels like something that could be done.
I think you would have to be very selective about what clades, like,
yeah.
Like you couldn't have the full aviary within just the museum, but I think you could end a dinosaur hall at like any.
I think you'd have to build it. You would have to conceive and construct it from nothing.
Right.
Right. Like you could do a zoo, right? Because zoos have little houses basically everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So you could do that in such a way to do like, you go through like the fossil history of each group and then like see the extant. Even if it's a more outdoors thing and like all the fossil stuff's more inside or whatever. I think it's feasible, but yeah, it would be like the zoo of America, right? This wouldn't be like one city's claim to fame. This would have to be like a huge project.
Yeah.
The Chinese will probably build it.
China, if you're interested in this, I'm happy to consult.
Our next question comes to us from Regalius, who asks, if you could have a single day with any prehistoric animal, what would it be and why? And what would you do? And I'm a little... The parameters of the question are broad-ish in a sense that I'm like, is this a single day with this prehistoric animal like brought to the present? Is it like you're in the past, but you only see this one animal? So I've got several things I can think of, and for various reasons. and I'll just go briefly through them, which is that for a sense of awe, I would want to spend a day following a Titanosaur around and just see what it does and be near it. To satiate my inner child, I would want to observe a T-Rex hunt. But like I said, that would suppose, I guess, seeing another animal, which would be the thing that is hunting. So if this is really limited to any one prehistoric animal, that'd be maybe not feasible.
Maybe it's hunting your enemies.
Maybe. I would love to see a T-Rex. But as odd as it's scientifically odd as it is for me, and this came to me in the day, I might pick like a stem mammal, like a Gorgonopsid or a Dimetrodon. Because I think there's a lot you could learn about those things in like a day of careful observation that would help bridge a big gap in our understanding. Because there's a big difference between an early stem mammal and crown mammals. And I think if you could like watch them and like maybe do some tests on like their visual acuity, how like their sense of hearing, how they're behaving, what their integument is, like what's the like is does it seem that the you know their fin has a function beyond display? I think there's a lot of unknowns you could like quickly get information, like really useful information on in a day. And being able to personally observe that would help in terms of stuff that's really hard to get out of the fossil record.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very good point.
I know James's answer is just going to be shoot them.
It was going... Alex. Nerve gas. I only have one day.
Minimal damage.
No, well, I mean, if I can shoot it, my answer might be a little bit different. But it is... I know I always harp on this, and I don't quite know what it is about me, but I want to go see some Pleistocene megafauna. I think if I've only got one day, I would obviously be very curious about many dinosaurs because they're what I work on. But I think to the point where I would feel during the day mostly just regret that I can't do what I'm doing for all of them. Like if you're like, you get one day, like, yeah, I'd love to see a T-Rex hunt or something. Or, you know, I'd love to see a T-Rex grow. I just want to see what the world could be like when it was healthier. Like I just, you know, this is something something I think about quite a lot. Like just the fact that even the most natural protected areas now are so touched by humanity. Like I just want to know, like, what was the world like? Because it wasn't exactly like this, clearly. So I'd love to just like spend a day like sitting near like La Brea, just like observe all the animals going past. If I'm really only able to see one animal, I probably want to see a mammoth. Or maybe just a passenger pigeon.
Jesus Christ.
You just want to see a single passenger pigeon?
You want to see a bird?
Okay,
a pigeon?
Well, I don't know. Okay, I want to see a flock overhead. How about a thylacine? Fine.
I just thought of thylacine. That would be actually a very good use of this.
Because I was on board with you. I'll wait for my
until I mentioned a bird.
Well, no, but not even like a cool bird, like a moa or like a
fair point,
like a terror bird. Because no, I'll say
no, but that's fine. That's what I would want. I just want to see some trace of what Earth is quote unquote supposed to be like.
So I in my head balanced a couple different factors. Namely, like, what would be an animal that I think I could learn a lot from observing it for a day? And also, what would be one that wouldn't bore me to tears while watching it after the first, like, couple minutes of, like, oh my God, this is a real animal that actually exists. Because, like, I did immediately think Titanosaur, but I think a Titanosaur would be something that is cool to see and cool to be around for a little while. But if you were spending an entire day watching a Titanosaur eat, like, just with its head in trees and barely moving, just eating literally constantly, it's like, okay. Very neat.
I get it.
After 6 hours, you're like, I think I get it. I think I understand.
I don't know about that.
Or like a large theropod or something. If they were anything like large predators today, it's spending a day with a T-Rex is watching it sleep.
Right.
which I mean, I guess I can't say too much about, like, I don't want to spend that much time with an animal that you just watch sleep most of the time, because I do have 2 cats. Although
you used to have snakes, or a snake.
I did used to have a snake and a lizard, and also these guys are not in the stage of we will sleep most of the time. Hence why I have a wand toy and I'm playing with it off camera. But
how are the rascals?
oh, they're doing very good. Jake has been vexing me recently, but
They're rascaling.
they're rascaling. But I think that something that would be very fun to observe would be something like a therizinosaur, like Therizinosaurus itself, something like that. Something that's like, it's not only do we barely know anything about these animals in general, but their anatomy is suggesting a very interesting, very strange lifestyle that we're only, even with good fossils, probably only really going to hint at, especially with the new discovery or the new publication of Duonicus. Why do you only got duo of those Nikes? Like, what you doing with those? What's happening? It's very
Good
strange.
Lord.
And I think that would be a really, really interesting animal to follow around for a day.
I like that answer.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea, because, like, I mean, like the others have said, like for Tyrannosaurus, like, it's hard to think of something that'd be interesting to watch in isolation. Like, if it's brought to the modern day, like, okay, I'm gonna watch it, be very confused, whatever it is, it's gonna be confused and upset, and then be shot by the military. So, and I don't know. It's hard because, like, obviously I'd like to see a mosasaur because they're cool, but I know they're ultimately lizards, and I think my time would be better spent with something that's so far removed from anything we have today. Like, I like Dalton's answer of a Gorgonopsid or a Dimetrodon, like something that's so weird, and like we really kind of have no idea what their deal is, and they'd probably hopefully be active enough that you're not, totally bored. Or like, I was thinking about Dunk. Like, what was that thing like, just to be like, what kind of presence did that thing have? Because I'm sure it was cool, and like I love fish. I love watching them, and so that'd be very fun. Obviously, like, dinosaurs are cool, and so pick one. It doesn't matter which one, almost, because they're all really cool. But I think, and then what I would do, truthfully, I don't think I would even try to do any science with it. I would just either be sketching or trying to write, but write more artistically about it. Because I don't think if you realistically are in that situation, I don't think that you're going to be getting any science done. I think you're going to be so, at least for us in the position that we are, that we just only deal with these things, skeletons. Like, I don't think I could personally get into a headspace where I would be doing any actual science on this stupid thing.
That's why you shoot it.
Well, does the body disappear? What are the rules?
You get 1 day. I took it to mean, like, you're not taking it back. You might get photos. Like, that's something I didn't think to mention, but I would definitely be taking a lot of pictures.
Also, if you get a whole day, if you get 24 hours, you could watch it for 12 and then shoot and dissect it for the other 12. If you want to be real productive with it,
That's true.
I empathize with James's point of view, which is, if I saw, like, because of anything in prehistory, I think a sauropod is top of my list, even though they're not what I work on. But
they're just
I want to be awestruck. My issue is, though, if I see it, that's the natural conclusion of my life.
Yeah, right.
Like, cement shoes off a pier after that. Like, oh, I'm gonna have a family after that? Great.
Right.
The only thing those kids are gonna hear is, I saw a dinosaur once, and now I gotta go to your soccer practice.
the most at the recital to the parent next to you. I saw a dinosaur one time.
The dinosaur was so much
at
cooler
your kid's
than
college
this.
graduation. Like, son, I'm very proud of you. But you know what made me much fucking happier than this?
Seeing a dinosaur.
Right.
The most
The kid
unrealistic
being like,
part.
Was the best day of your life with the day I was born? You'd be like, no. It was the day I saw a dinosaur.
The most unrealistic part of the Jurassic franchise is the fact that any of those people went back to digging up bones and were just like, I am happy doing this.
Yeah, Alan Grant being like, oh, thank God I escaped seeing living dinosaurs so I could go struggle to get funding for my days.
Well, actually, it turns out that art follows life
yes.
based on recent
events. Yeah.
Anyway, I think, me personally, it would have to be not a Pleistocene thing, even though Pleistocene animals are cool. We're not haters here. But yeah, some kind of weird bird or cool primitive croc, even possibly from the Mesozoic. Something that like I could conceive of and might answer some questions. But
wouldn't ruin your life.
That wouldn't ruin my life. Or alternatively, if I had only 24 hours, is this an animal or can be anything?
Creature, I think, was let me double check the wording, the verbiage here. Prehistoric animal is what it says.
Fuck.
Were you thinking of the giant fungus that might not be a fungus?
I was thinking of getting Luca and discovering how to synthesize life and become God.
You just running around the Precambrian. Luca!
Luca, where are you?
Luca!
I can't believe that Alex's two answers are, I want something that is grounded enough that I could see it and it would answer some questions, but it wouldn't really be life-changing. Or, besides that, become God.
Learn to make life anew.
I imagine its genome is tiny, like at that point, right? It's probably just a few nucleic acids floating aroround and some lipids.
You could just memorize the sequence.
Yeah, right. Like ABC. Just write it down on a pen on my arm.
AGTCGTCA. Okay, good.
You get back from the time travel. It's all smeared on your palm. No, I had it. I wrote it down.
The one part of the only side effect of time travel is that it makes your skin kind of clammy.
Makes you very sweaty.
No, there was time.
I had all the time in the world.
I had all the time in the world. Yeah, no, I mean, right? Like, you want to learn something.
Do you?
I would personally like to learn something.
Yeah.
I would like to know how life starts. I would like to I would like to do the final act of killing God and supplanting him.
I had a feeling.
He's real, by the way. God's real, but we can kill him.
And we have to.
You don't understand. We have to.
Our next question comes just from Noah Riccio, who asks a question about dinosaur posture. I see a lot of depictions of theropods holding their tails in a soft S shape on one end. On the other hand, I see them being stretched out and relatively straightened like a beam with some flexibility near the base. Are either possibilities based on anything? Publications, modern analogs, physics, vibes? And we think probably we'll let the theropod, the more theropod-minded folks take this one.
Yes, they're based on things.
They're based on things, and it is... I mean, there's definitely movement flexibility, but from my experience actually working with these bones, a gentle S shape seems pretty likely for like a neutral pose, if such a thing exists. And there's a lot of debate that we're not going to get into right now about whether you can consider any pose truly neutral. But yeah, if you just like line up the articular surfaces, you get like a kind of, you get it going down and then up a little bit and then down again.
You're going to learn some words.
Yeah.
They're called hyposphene.
You got hyposphenes. You got three zygapophyses. Hypantra.
So quick lesson, dear listener, on how tail vertebrae work. So your normal vertebrae, right? They have these facets that articulate with each other.
Aren't hyposphenes only on dorsals?
No, they go into the anterior caudals.
Oh, do they?
Yes. But no, they're mostly on dorsals. But we're going to teach them how zygapophyses work.
Okay.
So you have...
Can't wait.
These parts of a neural arch. All right, shoot. Okay, your vertebra. You have these things called vertebra.
To understand a tail, first you have to create the universe.
Yes, the demiurge created this crude material universe in which vertebrae exist. No, so your vertebrae have two parts. There's the centrum, which is, you could think of it as in a dinosaur, the bottom part, and this is the big round spool thing. They go like that. And then there's the neural arch, which is the complex bit on the top with all the holes and processes and the big spine. These articulate with each other with these zygapophyses. These are parts that stick out in the front and the back. Maybe you've seen these. And they interlock and they restrict the vertebrae from twisting and shearing your spinal column in half. it's important that this that you can walk on land basically because of these zygapophyses. Neat, isn't it?
They're cool.
They're cool. Anyway, some animals develop what we call accessory articulations in their vertebrae. So beyond this, snakes have some, and theropod dinosaurs have some as well. Some of these in theropods go into the base of the tail, but most of the tail stiffness in animals where it's actually like quite beamy is from ossified tendons. So like something like Deinonychus, for example, right? Tail is chock full of these long ossified tendons. I think that one probably is not doing an S. Like I don't know what he means by S. Like how exaggerated are we talking about?
I think top to bottom, like the fact that you come out of the pelvis and the tail kind of goes down
kind of
and
droops.
then up and like.
Oh no, okay, never mind. They all did that. Yeah, they could. Yeah, that's all of them. Never mind.
Yeah, but even with the ossified tendons, like you have a decent amount of side to side motion because of that velociraptor tail. Like I don't. Think
That's what I mean. I mean like all of that. That like that degree of curvature seems feasible.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Never mind. Maybe you learned something.
There you go. Hopefully you did. But it's time to move on now to our next question.
I do love learning things.
Which comes to us from the man with no name, who asks, what's a place in the world you would love to travel to that you haven't been able to yet, and why? And the why here, I am taking to mean why do you want to go there, not why have you not been able to go there yet.
I think it's funnier if it's why have you not been able to.
That's probably the same for all of us, which is just have not had the right combination of free time and money to go to the place we want to go. But I've written my answer first, and I love traveling. I really like if I had the available time and you gave me money and we're just like, you want to go somewhere? I'd be like, absolutely, I'll just go wherever. I love traveling. But one of the places that's high on my list of where I want to go is Peru. A couple like many reasons. One of them is that I do want to visit every continent. I have not been to South America yet, so that would get me South America. But more importantly for Peru, the reason I want to go there is I would really love to visit Machu Picchu. It looks just like tremendously beautiful and incredible. I'd also just love to see the Andes and the Atacama Desert, and also do like a flyover of the Nazca lines. My cousins did a trip to Peru. I would guess maybe like 8, maybe even 10 plus years ago now, and they had just an amazing time. And I was like, that seems like an awesome place to visit. So I want to go to Peru.
That's a great choice. I would love. Yeah, I've like to go there.
So I'll go next, and I have the distinct pleasure to be saying that when this video comes out, I'm gonna be at the place. It is serendipitous timing, because I have always said that I have like very strict criteria of what I would consider a like bucket list thing to do or place to see, where it's basically like if I was on my deathbed, I would genuinely be feeling regret of I didn't get a chance to do X or Z, and not just something I really want to do. And this is all to say that my number one bucket list place has been the Galapagos. And I am going to visit there in a week from Friday of when we are recording this. So, yeah, this is going to be coming out when I am there, I think. And it's going to be absolutely amazing. And for the why, of course why. If you're watching this channel, you know why. I don't even need to say it, but it's the Darwin stuff. It's the like this is the cradle for the understanding of the mechanism behind evolution. It's one of the most like biologically diverse places on Earth with animals that you can't see anywhere else. It's going to be an absolutely incredible experience, and I'm absolutely over the moon that I like. If anything, some of my friends have said that like, Scott, you even seem like a little like low key about like going to a place that's such a ridiculous bucket list thing for you. I think that it's partially because I still haven't fully comprehended that I'm actually going, and it's really going to hit when I'm there. That I'm just like, oh.
Is this a friends and family? Is this friends, family? Who are you going with?
Family.
I think I've gone everywhere that's worth going to. I think I'm good. I think I figured that shit out.
No,
I've never been
goodness.
to a number of places I would like to go. I would really like to go to Morocco. I would like to go to Egypt. I would love to see the pyramids. Various places in like both archaeological and paleontological significance, of course, in Egypt. Spain, Portugal, Greece. I've never been to. I guess just the Mediterranean. I've been to Italy, but only once, and it was only for about a week. So I would love to go back there again as well. I've always wanted to do Croatia. I think it's a little old hat now after Game of Thrones, but I've always wanted to go to Dubrovnik and like chill there. I wanted that more when it was considered cheap. I think now it's gotten pretty expensive because of all the Game of Thrones fans ruining it. I always wanted to go back to Romania, spend some time in Cluj, and actually go to Bucharest because I loved it there while I was doing field work.
I miss Cluj.
Yeah. In terms of places that I've always like really, really wanted to go, I think those are them. Scott and I did most of what I kind of wanted to do in Australia. So I don't have like a burning desire to go back to Australia. I think that's mostly practical though, because if I went back, I would stay for a month. Like you need a lot of time to justify like a 19-hour flight. Doing 5 days in Australia was hellacious. But it was cool. We got to go to the Australia Zoo, and that was wonderful. I've always wanted to go to Tasmania, though. There's some beautiful mountains and scenery in Tasmania. I would love to hike there.
And a famous devil.
A famous devil, while supplies last.
No.
Yeah, I think those are them. There's a lot of like relatively small things I've always wanted to do, and like that's just a time thing. Like there's just so many things you can drive to if you live like anywhere in the US, but especially on the East Coast where things tend to be closer together. Like you're probably only, if you're on the whole Eastern Seaboard, like going down to Georgia, Florida, you're probably only like an hour and a half away from something that's pretty cool and worth seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be further away if you're in the interior of the country where things tend to be further apart. But like, there's just all sorts of things. Like I wanted to see when I was living in North Carolina, I never made it to the, like Roanoke Colony archaeological site.
Oh yeah,
which I wanted to see. Things like that. But life is long. Trying to live it more intentionally to go to smaller places, and planning a life of crime to support my Galapagos vacations.
Hey, maybe someday.
We
can go together. We can do the skeleton crew trip. Ooh, actually, pay for us to go. Patrons.
Get on it.
It counts. It's content because it's about evolution.
It would be entirely tax deductible.
We really like. If you give us $30,000, we will go to the Galapagos
and have a good time.
Yeah.
Oh, we need more than that.
Well, not if we did the exploring Galapagos tour.
Some of them are quote unquote cheaper and in the 5,000 to 6,000 range.
Yeah.
I
wonder how we could.
I found some for 2,000 when I was looking at the Yale
first
trips.
time we looked, it was like very reasonable, and then the second time we looked, it was a nightmare.
Well, that's because of the tariffs on the Galapagos. I'm wondering how one gets chosen as one of the lecture series for the boat.
Right?
I think that would be such a cool place to give a talk about science.
Yeah.
They're cheaper.
I can't remember why my dad had brought it up, but I think my dad was just talking about things that he wants to do, and he had mentioned the Nat Geo cruises, and he had mentioned like, yeah, part of it is like you actually are out with the scientists and they like do lectures and stuff, and that'd be cool. And all I could think is like, how do you get that job? How do you get paid to go on this cruise and give talks and hang out with Nat Geo? Like that sounds really cool.
Yeah,
cool.
My mom has said
awesome.
My mom has said that one of the she actually just said like when we had a call last night, she was just we were talking about what we're looking forward to, and she said honestly one of the biggest things we're looking forward to is watching you interact with these scientists after these like expeditions and stuff. I'm like, yeah, that's gonna be fun.
It's gonna be
correct
really
them. Be so annoying.
Actually.
All right. Someone else say where they want to go.
Well, wait. I just think we should, as the crew, we should do the Galapagos by catamaran: an intimate voyage.
Do any of you know how to sail?
It's not a sailing catamaran.
I know how to sail a catamaran. We could.
Yeah, but I don't know how to sail a catamaran.
it's a catamaran. One person can sail.
Yeah, they're not hard.
But this is a cruise ship that's built.
But
like
it's
a
an
catamaran.
intimate voyage.
It's an intimate
I see.
voyage.
It's
yes.
a double hold cruise ship, but it's an intimate voyage. What you have to understand.
Yeah, Scott,
There's
James over there showing his ass. Doesn't know you can sail a catamaran one.
it's
Guy
there
thinks you
might
need 2 people to sail a catamaran.
there might be
Moron grew up on Long Island. Yeah, sure.
there might be 2 hulls, but there's only 1 bed in the room.
No, we do the Galapagos cruise, but on like a 16-foot catamaran with only the mesh.
Oh,
Between
God,
the
that's
holes.
rad.
No, it would suck. It
We're
would be
just
the worst.
the most sunburned people you've ever seen by the end of it. We ran
You're
out of
wet all
sunscreen.
the
We
time.
have to
because the
sail
water's
through the
splashing
Panama
up.
Canal while the U.S. is invading.
Just us in our little
This is
cat.
such a good movie. Just like Alex, I hope you learn to sail under fire.
It's like Forrest Gump almost. It's like
Yeah.
a Forrest
Yeah.
Gump-esque kind of type adventure.
God, that's so funny.
All right, someone else say where we want to go because we are doing good.
Yeah, I think Amelia.
I think I'm next. Yeah. So there's a couple things that come to mind. I've always wanted to get to Antarctica somehow the problem is it scares me. But like I really want to see it before it all melts. Galapagos, obviously, at some point. Madagascar is another place that I would like. We had a student defend in Gilder School last week that did some field work on the Galapagos, or not Galapagos, Madagascar, and her pictures were so cool. I also like archaeological stuff. Also, like really interests me. Like I love being in old places. So like Egypt, I think about a lot. Like I really, 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 really want to see that because that's. I don't know. In terms of archaeological things that are archaeologically and just historically important, like there's few things that beat that. And then in Europe, I've been to most places that because of this job, I had the opportunity to go to a couple places that I've been wanting to go to. But the only like region left that I'm really itching to get to is like the whatchamacallit, the fjords of like Norway and the northern Europe. Cause like I love snow and mountains and would love to, I don't know. They just seeing pictures of those structures. Like I have a feeling like I don't know. I think it would be almost depressing, but in the man, I wish we weren't ruining the planet kind of way. But like, I don't know. It feels like that kind of place. And I really would like to see that. And I love the little like seaside, colorful houses and things that are. I think it's Bergen is the town that has, one of the towns where you can be based and go check out the fjords and stuff.
Cool. Mr. Maya.
I went. It's your turn. I started this.
Has everyone gone?
Yes.
You haven't.
Yeah, it's just you.
Okay. There are so many places. I like to be in different places. I hate traveling. My ideal travel experience is that at the gate, someone jabs me with a syringe, and then I'm resuscitated at the location.
I like that this is not a tranquilizer you've envisioned, but it kills you and then you're resuscitated.
Resuscitated. That doesn't mean I'm dead. I'm just like that's fine.
It's
That's my
IRL
ideal.
fast travel.
Yeah, I hate flying. That's a
Yeah.
little. I don't mind driving if I'm the one to drive, but otherwise, no. I don't mind boats or trains. I really just don't like flying. But yeah,
like flying.
just anyway. That being said, I've been to
don't
every
fly
continent
now.
besides Antarctica. So Antarctica, I'd like to go to because I want to cross them all off. That being said, there are like a million places I'd rather spend time than Antarctica, which is a horrible frozen desert.
Every time I
with
see
a cool,
pictures
cute,
of it.
with a few cool animals at the edge.
Right. Every time I see pictures of Antarctic expeditions, I'm just like, oh my God. Like they show the pictures of the mountains they have to climb to see if there's fossils. And
Yeah.
I'm like, are you finding a lot? And they're like, oh no.
I would want
No,
to.
we're not.
I would want to do the. I would want to at least get the headphones. I hope they have like little CDs where you can get like little headphones to listen to the Werner Herzog documentary. I want to find the penguin that's going mad and a penguin experience. Anyway, places I would like to go. Kind of top of my list, because the Galapagos kick ass, and in the spirit of the Galapagos, I would like to go to like the Wallace zone. I want to go to Komodo Island. I want to see those big friggin' lizards.
That'd be cool.
And I want to see some of those reefs, those Indo-Pacific reefs, because they're cool as shit. I've done Australia. I'd like to go back. I'd really like to do New Zealand. If I had to go to that part of the world, a little south of Indonesia, I'd like to go there. Dylan had a great time in Bali too. My brother. You don't know who Dylan is. Really, on every continent, there are places I'd like to go. I'd really like to go to, Dalton said, like Chile and Peru in South America. Fantastic. I'd love to see the Amazon. I've not been to the Amazon. I've been to Ecuador and stuff like that, but I haven't, like the basin proper. I'd like to see. Go on one of the boats, see some crazy fish.
Pretty cool.
Get bitten by some weird bugs.
That's cool.
In the U.S., New Orleans. I've never been, and I'd very much like to go.
We were talking about that at lunch today.
Same.
Yeah,
we went to New Orleans last spring, and it is one of the happiest I've ever been. It was like like 5 days. It was like maybe the best vacation I've ever had.
Kick ass.
Just every single thing you eat is better than the last.
In Africa, I would very much like to go to Egypt. I think that'd be cool. Mm-hmm. Morocco too. And then in Europe, I've been to a few spots. I haven't seen much of. I would like to go to Rome. Never been to Rome. I would like to.
Lovely.
Rome's great.
Like Greece and
I like Greece.
Yeah, even parts of like the Transylvania. It's like cool old historic places. I want to see it all, baby. I'd also like to go back to China and get to Mongolia at some point. There's so many places to go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, those go without saying for me, but I've tried to answer without thinking about work.
Not work.
Yeah.
That's fair.
This is just like
for funsies. Yeah, I tried to answer mostly for funsies.
Yeah.
It's fun to think about all the cool places you could go. But
all the places you'll go.
We're here, and the next place we're going is the next question, which comes to us from ChaoticKaiju, who asks, what's our favorite winter holiday movie? And mine is a simple. It is kind of cliche at this point. It's maybe a little overplayed. There are channels that play it at like every day, like nonstop all day Christmas, but it's A Christmas Story.
Oh, fantastic choice. I thought you were going to say Elf.
No, I've never seen all of Elf, and I don't really intend to.
That's you don't need to see it.
No, it's A Christmas Story. It's like it's maybe a bit overplayed, but it's funny. Movie's
awesome.
It's charming, and for me, it like really evokes the cozy feeling of the holidays. Like it's just all the like stuff you experience. Obviously, I did not grow up in like
the 50s,
but there's like some very universal childhood experiences of like the strangeness of adults around the holiday time and just things that happen with your family. And it's like, it's lighthearted and charming. I like that movie a lot.
Your dad being a pervert.
Well, Dalton doesn't remember that.
It's a major award.
Oh, sorry.
The leg lamp is such a great. It's so great.
So funny.
It's such a good bit.
You'll shoot your eye out.
So mine is a shockingly a pretty new one.
Yeah.
Mine is Klaus. It's an animated movie from not that long ago that has an absolutely like ridiculously gorgeous animation style. It has a killer voice cast, and it's magical. It's so good. It makes me cry every single time I see it. And now I've just fully Pavloved myself, where as soon as it starts, I'm tearing up, and I continue to just like, I'm feeling all the regular emotions that I feel while I'm watching it, but there's just a slow trickle of tears going down my face for the entirety of the movie. It's so good, and that tears becomes way less slow and more torrential waterfall at the scene where the little Sami girl rides her sled around on the stuff. Oh my god, it's such a good movie. Oh my god, J.K. Simmons can do no wrong, and it's a great casting that they cast him as Santa.
He's a good actor.
So,
I like him.
I'm going to be basic also. I like Home Alone a lot.
Great choice.
Makes me tear up. Great movie.
I've never seen it.
Really?
Yeah, I've never seen Home Alone.
Wow.
We're fixing that shit.
Yeah, we're going to have to fix that. I love Home Alone. My favorite part of Home Alone is, of course, the couple of scenes with John Candy, who is not credited and apparently refused any payment for the movie and just was like, yeah, I'll just do it, and filmed all of his scenes in like an afternoon.
Really?
Yeah, it was just like he was friends with the directors and like the production crew. He's like, whatever, I'm in the area. I'll just hang out for a little while.
Chris Columbus, right?
It was Chris Columbus, yeah.
Yeah.
Often confused with the man who invented
Chris
genocide.
Columbus.
But it's actually a different guy.
What?
I know.
A different man from 1492?
Yeah, I know. I mean, they've got the same name. A lot of people get confused, but they're different people. One's a movie director. He also made the first Harry Potter movies.
Yes.
Right. Just wanted to be clear.
Really?
Yeah.
I think the first two.
Yeah.
Is that why the Christmas scenes in those movies go
so
insane?
hard? Yeah.
Yes. It is also, I have heard that he was kind of known for a like kind of remarkable ability to work with kids.
Yeah, I think
Damn,
so.
that's really cool. I had no idea. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it comes through pretty strongly. Like he's very, very good with young actors. It's him and Spielberg were quite known for just being like able to get through to child actors and get them to give a good performance by like understanding how to talk to them and work with them better. Like, which I think is a combination of treating them with respect, but also like knowing what kind of, like, if you need a kid to cry, instead of being like, have it cry and be big crying, be like, I don't know. I want to imagine
faster, harder, more intense.
Right. Right. Instead of that, just being like, I don't know, I actually just ran over your dog or something. I don't know. I presume that would make a kid cry.
Here's a picture of me with your dog I just beat to death with a baseball bat. How does that make you feel?
Right. Does it make you feel sad? Right. Yeah. Right. Hold on to that feeling.
It's all right. It wasn't your dog. It was just some stray I found.
Somebody else's dog. Don't worry about it.
The kid's like, it was a fake dog, right? No. We don't have that.
It
We
was
don't
a
have
real
that kind
dog.
of money.
I think it's very important to note two things about Chris Columbus. One, his Wikipedia page personal life section ends with, he is of no relation to Christopher Columbus.
Did you write this page?
That's really funny.
But
That's
second, do you know the young director who he has been serving as like an advisor and mentor for, as he's kind of phased out of his directing career and is now supporting the career of others? Are you ready for this? Robert Eggers.
No way.
No.
What?
He is apparently, I think they met at a film festival or something, and he recognized that Robert Eggers had a lot of talent, and it was like, all right, I'll mentor you.
That's awesome.
There's a Christmas movie coming.
It's so dramatic.
There's going to be a period accurate like Protestant, like the Protestant religious uprising in England, where a bunch of annoying Quakers tried to like cancel Christmas.
Didn't I say a while ago that a Robert Eggers A Christmas Carol would go insanely hard?
You did say that,
and you're so correct.
And maybe,
oh my god, I
happening.
forgot. That's the best.
Shit.
That's like one of the best ideas anyone's ever had.
Oh my god,
Scott's killing it today with ideas.
Scott, if that happens, I'll burn incense because you're a prophet.
Well, thank you.
He was also one of the producers for Nosferatu.
Damn.
And The Lighthouse.
Damn.
Okay, Chris Columbus.
I like that Chris Columbus's like most recently directed big movie was Pixels and the Christmas Chronicles too.
Pixels.
He directed
He is a man of contrasts. In this house, Chris Columbus, not that one, is a hero.
Well, like his filmography. Here's what he directed, and like one after the other. Here, Home Alone, Home Alone 2, Mrs. Doubtfire.
Wait, he directed Mrs. Doubtfire?
He did.
Damn.
Bicentennial Man, which I have not seen. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, Chamber of Secrets. Yeah. And then he did Christmas with the Cranks.
Oh.
Okay.
Then a movie adaptation of Rent.
Oh.
Then the movie
Well,
I Love You, Beth Cooper. And then the Percy Jackson movie, and then Pixels. Having an amazingly... All Italian directors do this, except for Scorsese, who does just one movie nobody sees to alternate with his movies that become cultural touchstones. This reminds me a lot of Coppola, who, as we may remember, directed The Godfather and then also Megalopolis a lot later.
Yes.
What are you trying to say?
Megalopolis is, I think, known to be a worse movie. But...
Have you seen it?
No, I haven't.
Wow, so just...
I really want to watch
Think for yourself.
But anyway... At the same time, he's
it.
been like producing much more interesting movies, and I feel like maybe he was just like, okay, I've made 5 cultural touchstone movies. I'm going to only make movies that pay me a gigantic paycheck, and then I'll also be Robert Eggers' mentor and key into Hollywood. And I think that's a life
who's this
well lived.
This shaved head nerd? He seems cool.
Well,
and
like, you know, to Christopher Columbus's credit, perhaps also.
Well, to Chris Columbus or to Christopher Columbus?
Chris Columbus.
Okay.
He was also a writer on Gremlins and the
holy
Goonies.
shit.
And the Goonies, right?
Insane. Wow. But like the kind of movie that he seems to really, really excel at making is just not one that is like made anymore. So I don't blame him for not finding success in like trying to make kind of family-ish films in the like in the 2010s in the after, because like that is like we're hurting for that.
Ooh, I just had a slightly cringe take, but I thought about it a little more, and now I actually don't hate it. If they do a season 2 of the Skeleton Crew,
ooh,
they should get him.
They should,
because that's the only thing that is like that's the only thing I've seen in a while that kind of hits that that vibe.
Mm-hmm.
All right, who's next? Who's got their next fun holiday film?
I think Amelia.
Mm-hmm.
I think is it me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I will say, like Dalton, I actually had not seen Home Alone all the way through until this year. So
and
you're not alone. It's fine. It's not it has not. I don't know. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't. I'm not gonna like have it on repeat. I don't think. I mean, Jacob likes it, so I'm sure I'll continue to watch it. But
it's about your people, though.
I'm trying to think.
Midwesterners?
Christmas Story. What?
I think Alex said it's about your people in reference to Midwesterners.
But he lives in like Chicago, right?
Yeah, he lives in Chicago, and that's John
near
Candy's
you.
character from Kenosha, and does a whole bit about that.
Yeah, all right. See, don't hate.
I'm not hating.
Not you, James.
Oh. No, that is accurate. But also, Christmas Story is also in Chicago, I think. Or nearby.
Damn, they were having crazy Christmases in Chicago.
Yeah. Anyways, so Christmas Story is up there for me. I do like Elf. It's it's the sillier one that I don't tend to like holiday movies usually, because it's just not what I usually like. I do like Elf, but I think for me, the one that I wound up watching the most this year. How annoying is the background sound? Because it's very loud.
I can't hear it.
Can't hear it.
Okay, good.
I hear it a little bit, but
Jacob is, I
whatever.
think, watching Fallout, and there's a lot of gun sounds happening. Anyway, for me, I think it is Christmas Vacation.
That's
that's the one that I quote the most, and I think this year, not really intentionally, but I think this year I watched it 3 or 4 times, which is abnormal for me because I usually only watch each one like once. But like I watched it, I think once on my own, once with Jacob, and then once with my family. So I don't know. We have a little signboard in the kitchen that's the shape of a dinosaur that one of my family members got me, and it has since December read "Where is the Tylenol?" And I just haven't changed it. But it's like I quote that all the time. Jacob and I, like as as the deadlines for the thesis have neared, have been quoting "We're at the threshold of hell" pretty regularly. Yeah, it's I think it's got to be that one.
I watched that a lot growing up around the holidays, not just like randomly.
Yeah.
Alex, I think it's your go.
I mean, we've said a lot of the famous ones. We watched A Christmas Story quite a bit. They're the animated ones too. I'd say I'd pick two we haven't said. I like Elf too, by the way, Amelia. No judgment. But my brother and I, for Christmas a few years ago, we tried to find like weird Christmas movies to watch. And we started this tradition off with Krampus, which is awesome if you haven't seen it.
I've heard kind of shockingly good things about it.
It is better than, I don't want to say it deserves to be, but than you would expect. So we thought, oh wow, this was awesome, and then we watched an awful movie after that. So now we've just decided that we just watch Krampus, which is great. But I also do enjoy, the movies my friends have said, but also one that I have started watching sometimes by myself and only once with my family is It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh, classic for a reason.
So
which
good.
Is possibly the best. It's great. It's got everything you want in a movie about Christmas. Suicide, attempted suicide, galaxies that are angels and talking to each other. A cool scene where his town becomes like a red light district. And it's implied that there's like a bordello. You used to be able to make cool movies. No, I'm kidding. This was a family film, and it's got Jimmy Stewart's great. Oh, geez, that's all he does is, oh God, oh Billy, you stupid. He doesn't say that, but he gets mad at Uncle Billy because he absolutely.
Well, of course, he gets mad at Uncle Billy.
He's lucky George Bailey is a kind and honest Catholic man. Oh, the theme of the film is also that Catholicism is the true religion. No, I'm joking. It doesn't make that claim anywhere, but
it does implicitly make
make the claim. No, but it's just like a great movie. It's about a man who's like a good man who's trying to provide for his family. He is a generous and kind person. It's all like, it's not really about, like, A Christmas Story is great, and that's like about like what is Christmas like as a child, and Santa and gifts, and I love that stuff. Don't get me wrong, but a Christmas, like, you don't want to be like the reason for the season is it's a Christian holiday, and I think what's A Wonderful Life does is like no, it's not, doesn't have to be, but there's like it absolutely executes on those like emotional beats, like family and community and charity. Because the whole town comes, spoiler if you haven't seen it, he is rescued from his financial ruin by the generosity of his friends and family.
Mutual aid is good.
And yes, the villain, who is not redeemed at the end, is just
not even a little bit.
Not even a tiny bit. He's just a dick the whole time. Is this big fat like asshole who owns property. The theme of the film is property owners are evil. And community action is good. It's a communist film.
It kind of is.
It came out in 1947.
Thank you for translating the beloved Christmas movie into Twitter socialist.
Oh no, this was it was on the shit list like days.
No, I know. I do know it was suppressed for a long time,
and it wasn't a hit when it came out. It kind of experienced.
No, it wasn't.
It's anyway. I kind of watched it on a whim because I realized I'd never seen it. And I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. Anyway, so now I'm watching it every year.
There you go. It's a Wonderful Life. It was a wonderful question, but as with all things, it's time to move on to the next one, which comes to us from King Zasshu, who asks, I don't know if he says, I don't know if you've been asked this before, but what is something you've seen depicted in a reconstruction, whether it be behavioral or appearance, that has little to no evidence for said thing, yet you feel that it has to be true to some extent? And this is an excellent question that I somehow, when I was filling out the document, did not write an answer for and did not see. And so I'm going to turn to Scott, who has an answer written, to say his answer while I think of mine.
Can do. I said, I think Prehistoric Planet sometimes really hits the nail on the head with this. Like little things like the T-Rex swimming short distances between like sandbars and small islands to find easy food and stuff like that. And like big sauropod fights are something we have literally zero evidence for in the fossil record, or at least nothing like solidly conclusive in the sauropod, or like nothing inarguable in the sauropod fighting sphere. But like these are things that happened, like 100%. Yeah, and I think that that's fun.
Scott,
yes.
if you built a building to have Brontosaurus fights in,
They would come.
would you call it the Thunderdome?
The Thunderdome? Yes!
That would kick ass. That'd be so cool.
Oh my god, yes.
Where'd Amelia go?
Just picturing, I
whatever.
don't know, maybe bathroom or something. But yeah, just little things like that. This is something the Prehistoric Planet does very well.
I think she's on call. She ran off to the ER.
Oh,
Yes.
right.
In the pit.
Good stuff.
That's a great show.
All right, in
I'm
her
really
absence,
enjoying it.
who's next?
Dalton, have you rethought of your answer?
No, I haven't. So if you have an answer thought of, please.
This is going to be very stupid, but Gorgosaurus being blue.
That's right.
It feels right to me.
That's in the spirit of the question.
Yeah.
Carnotaurus being red.
No,
Yes.
I don't know about
Actually-
that one as much.
Well,
What?
Also, I would even maybe just give my answer to Allosaurus being the color it is in Walking with
Coelophysis
Dinosaurs.
having like striped legs.
Stockings. It's got knee highs.
Yeah, all of those things really.
Gonna ruin my life.
Sorry. No, they really do get me in that way.
I don't know. That Oviraptor ate eggs. Like,
Oh yeah.
yeah, it did. It definitely did. It's got like, and yeah, it also like nested and brooded, right? But I know a lot of birds that eat eggs. They all lay,
Also eggs.
varanids. They don't tend their nest, but they eat eggs. An egg is like the perfect food. Everything will eat an egg. But oviraptors do have, if you're not familiar with the skull of oviraptors, they make a tooth. They're toothless, they're edentulous, but they turn part of their maxilla and their vomer into a spike that points down. And I don't know, man, that seems like a pretty useful thing to crack hard objects, be they eggs or shellfish or a cool fruit. So I think they're munching. Anything else that I've seen in paleo docs? That gigantic lobefin fish would drag themselves up onto beaches like orcas, chasing like little tetrapods like they do in Walking with Monsters.
Oh yeah, I bet they did that.
I don't know if that's like feasible with their like limb, whatever. I don't study that group, but I choose to believe it's true.
Oh, you know what? I'll say mine.
Go for it,
that
King.
I actually do think is true, which is that given that it seems that they were to some degree social animals, I do think it is not like unrealistic and probably happened that ceratopsians would like rally, like do a circle around the babies. Like I bet that I don't think that seems unrealistic at all.
Mm-hmm.
Facts.
You think of that recent elephant video from the zoo?
Yes. Yeah.
Just anything that they showed in Walking with Dinosaurs probably happened. No, I'm kidding. But
Amelia, did you get the question? I don't remember if you were here for the question.
Yes. No, I just stepped away to pour some more tea. I I'm trying to think. I guess eye spots on ceratopsians, like on their frills.
Yeah.
Like
That's a good
that just seems right.
It's canon.
Like whether or not, I mean, I guess if they're eye spots, they have that function as well. I don't know why, but like that seems right. Like, let me hold on. I gotta double check something very quickly. Yeah, like which in part explains why the prehistoric park Triceratops is the best design of any dinosaur ever.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what?
Yeah.
I'll replace my answer also. Triceratops looking exactly like that. I think that was correct.
Yeah.
They got it. It's like it's like what we said for Carnotaurus. Like they just accidentally found the color.
Yeah.
Like yeah, no, it's that. Man.
God, holy shit, these things are weird.
Who are you looking at now, Alex?
I finally got an ankylosaur where I can actually see the sutures between the skulls because they're not co-ossified. An Achosaurus. What a mess.
Cool.
Very cool, but nonsensical.
I think that's everything for that question, right? Everyone's gone?
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's time for our next one. Life Finds a Way asks us, what is the best non-skull bones to have in a holotype with minimal material? And basically everyone has said this, and it just so happens that because I'm the first in the written order, I will say it first, but it's correct, and it bears repeating by everyone, so don't feel bad for saying it. It really depends on the animal and the particular group. And so I will just speak for squamates, and in particular non-mosasaur squamates, because it may be different from mosasaurs. I don't actually know. But I would ideally, if I don't have a skull, to be like diagnostic and to be a holotype, I would ideally want at least some vertebrae, like some dorsals and caudals, because there's good and important characters in both of those regions of the verts. There's also good characters in the rest of the axial skeleton, but they're less sampled at the moment. And some limb bones, like enough to get proportions could be useful of like the fore and hind limbs and like the proximal and distal hind limbs, and a bit of hand and foot material, and now wrist and ankle material could be useful. But it's tricky. Like for lizards, if you don't have any cranial material at all, it would be quite hard to have a really tightly diagnosable holotype. Alex, you've written your answer next.
I have. Thinking strictly now pivoting from Dalton's lizard, I'm thinking, hey, if you're looking for archosaurs, and if you're looking for archosaurs, maybe the Triassic. If you have one bone, it's probably an ankle that you would that's helpful. But elements that I personally think are important, and this is born a little bit out of work I'm currently doing right now. Limb bones, usually the proximal most, so a femur or a humerus. And vertebra, cervical or dorsal, especially. So I say cervical. There's a ton of information in it, in vertebra. And what's nice about the cervicals is there's like a pneumaticity cheat code where if it has pneumatic cervicals, it becomes much easier to figure out what something is.
That is true.
Yeah. That's like, and I guess I'm thinking in more kind of coarse classification than I am specifics, right? Like obviously like the second metatarsal is really important if you're looking for dromaeosaurs, and stuff like that. But yeah, generally, I think I would go ankles, proximal limb bones, and then cervical or dorsal vertebra, and then maybe the hips.
And to continue on the it depends train, I'll take the mammal side, and if will allow me to not call these skull bones, teeth. it's teeth for mammals, hands down. It's kind of no questions asked. Like,
right.
There are, like, you might have heard us talk on the crew before about derogatorily about tooth taxa, about just like, oh my gosh, how the hell are you able to say all this about like a single isolated tooth or something like that, and like having these issues with like figuring out what these things are. This is not a mammal issue. Mammal teeth are diagnostic to an incredible degree because of the nature in which mammals have incredibly specialized and highly derived precisely occluding teeth that you can't like. One of my favorite examples of this is Gigantopithecus. Like, we have a bit of the jaw of Gigantopithecus. It is almost exclusively teeth. And that's all we have of this thing. And we're able to not just like estimate its size and weight and everything like that, but also, yeah, there's over 1,000 teeth of Gigantopithecus, but we don't have a good body skeleton. Yeah, there's tons of them. But like, we are able to specifically say, oh, this thing's a pungent. This thing's related to orangutans. Not just it's a monkey. Like, it's
no Pongo, no.
It's wild the resolution that you're able to get out of mammal teeth.
Yeah.
For chance to dream.
Mm-hmm. Now I'm gonna go. Speaking of mammals, I'm gonna go see what my little ones are up to in the other room. They're making noises. What are you doing?
I don't really have a different answer. I think everything's been covered. It's situational.
All right, next one.
But, well, Amelia will have an answer. But I'd say one bone I don't think Alex mentioned a lot that can be very helpful for some theropods is, at least theropods, is an ilium. Ilium, remarkably for a bone that's as like kind of flat as it is, a lot of really important character info.
A lot happening on that ilium.
Yeah. So it can be very helpful.
The problem with mosasaurs is that they reduce their limbs to a point where they're helpful. Like, they are helpful, and like, so same for the vertebrae, but they're helpful to a point. Like, I think, especially if we're limited to one bone, if I can only have one bone that's not from the skull, it's probably a humerus, because that's like the only thing that retains like possible species level information. As far as I can tell, like, I am still looking for characters in the postcrania, but like everything else, like, you can get the clade and you might be able to get the genus, but for species identification, it's really just the humerus is the only thing that currently, as far as I can tell, stands a chance of you being able to identify it. But even then, not really. Like,
sure.
Because they reduce everything. Like, so again, like, group level and genus level, most of the limb, other than like the digits, even the digits though, metacarpal 1 is pretty variable between the different groups, and the atlas and the axis, but species level, not really. But also depends on the group. Like, I did find a character in a bone that had previously been represented by 0 characters in the character matrix. I'm not going to break my own embargo, but there is information there. So I imagine there is more that we just haven't found yet or noticed yet. But I don't expect it to be usually species level.
Right.
No, I think that's... Is that everyone?
Believe so.
I think so. Okay. Well, then, that's a very good question. Life finds a way. And our next question then comes to us. I want to make sure I'm just not... The spacing got kind of weird. Yes, it comes from Dinodom, who asks if we have any funny Christmas stories. And I always hate to do this during a Q&A because it's not a great answer. But I can't... I was racking my brain trying to think of any, and I can't really think of any. My Christmases have been, blessedly in some degrees, generally pretty chill, and just kind of calm, small affairs. So I don't really have any funny stories, unfortunately.
Nor do I, sadly. Like, I mean, sadly or not sadly, I am actually pretty okay with it.
I've realized I actually have a decent one, unless everyone else wants to say that all of their Christmases are uneventful and unmemorable. And
well, we'll leave. If you've got a good one, Scott, we'll round it out with you. I'll say I don't know if I have like funny Christmas stories. I do have many fond Christmas memories, including one when I was like 6 or 7, in which my parents had a like swing set installed in the middle of the night in the backyard.
Oh, wow.
Which I think kept my belief in Christmas magic going strong for at least several more years than I think it normally would have, because that shit blew our... It was so cool. And they covered their tracks. It was snowy. It was kind of an iconic Christmas memory. And those swing sets kicked ass.
actually, I am realizing that I misread the question, and it's funny, not just fun Christmas memories. So I thought you guys were being like extra dour about this,
I've
and
had
like
many
all of
fun
our
Christmas.
Fun, absolutely. Fun,
okay,
yes.
yes.
Funny.
I was genuinely, I was just like, what happened to all of you? Yeah, no.
Fun Christmases.
No, I also don't have any that are like that are like expressly super funny or anything.
I think I do. I think I have probably several that I don't remember.
Concerning.
Because one side of my family is pretty chaotic. And so enough has happened in those settings that like I don't even remember all of it. The one that stands out to me, though, was the first time I brought my now fiance to that side of the family's Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
It was a blizzard, as it tends to be in December in Wisconsin. And we went to this family's house, and we're doing normal activities, but like it's very loud. Like that side of my family is very loud, very combative, very argumentative. I know this is coming as a shock to everyone on the call here.
Oh my God, are you adopted?
Right? But like, so it's like, so this is like my first, like, I think it was my first time introducing him to that side of the family at all. And we'd been dating, I think at that point for like 2 or 3 years. We open the door and it's a wall of sound. It's very loud. For the record, my fiance comes from a family of where his dad is one of 10 siblings. I went to their family Christmas. Not as loud as my 10, give or take, aunts, uncles, and cousins. He's commenting from outside the room. But anyway, so like, having been to his family's house where there were literally 100 people in this house, not as loud as open the door, there's about a dozen people, wall of sound. So I'm like, all right, it's a blizzard, and the usual things are happening in which people are telling stories at work and making fun of other family members that aren't there, and et cetera, et cetera. In good fun, of course. And just, it was just, for me, more so the funny part was his response to the chaos, because I have inherited the argumentative side of this. I've not inherited this chaos. I like things to be very organized, on time, scheduled. They don't work like that. So there was a long discussion over the course of like 2 or 3 hours about whether or not we were going to go sledding, which culminated in like around 11 o'clock at night, deciding, okay, yes, we're going to go sledding. So we all piled into, my cousins and I it's a blizzard, by the way. We all piled into my dad's Excursion. He had a Ford Excursion at the time, which is a huge truck. And I don't know if all of us had seatbelts. It doesn't matter. My oldest, Jacob, is now in the doorway shaking his head because I'm sure he remembers this fondly. It was funny to me because he's like pale the whole drive. Like we're sliding, we're having a great time. My cousin who's driving is a bit of a silly person. I don't know how else to really explain his mannerisms and things. So we're driving, we're sliding on the roads. It's 11 p.m. And we get to this place to go sledding, and the hill kind of sucks. We're there for maybe 5 minutes. We turn around and go back, and that's it. And then afterwards, we get in the car to go home. And I don't remember what you said, but just so you have to imagine, for those of you who know Jacob, and those of you who don't, you can just picture a man who is seeing his life flash in front of his eyes as we're driving in a blizzard in the dead of night in a vehicle that is still very loud because it's full of my cousins and us, you know. after about 2 hours of discussion of whether or not we were going to do it, only to stay for like 5 minutes. So maybe not funny to anyone else, but very funny to me, because I knew something to this effect was going to happen, as it always does at this gathering every year.
That is fun.
That one stands out. Do you have any comments to add? Is that why you're lurking in the doorway?
One must.
Yes, your family has no sense of how to make a decision or
what's appropriate to say in front of children.
That too.
Yeah.
Well, that can all be explained away by the regional pastime.
No one was inebriated. I don't think.
Yeah.
My oldest cousin was not drinking, and the rest of us
ended faster.
The rest of us were not of age at this point. This was in.
So you weren't 14.
I would have been like a freshman or a sophomore at Carthage. So I did not underage drink.
Okay. So. Fair enough. Okay. Is this the last question? Because I'm beginning to like.
No, I think there's another one. There's 2 more. There's 3 more.
Hallucinate.
There's several more.
There's 4 more.
Christ. Okay.
All right. Speed Racer.
4.
Yep.
Something like that. Okay, so our next question comes to us from Quest. Quest asks, what's the PhD candidate process like from a social standpoint? How's your experience interacting with academic peers, your advisor, and committee? And so I will just, the recording is going long. We're going to blast through, but hopefully provide good answers. For me, socially, I've had actually a really good time. I think it's important to actively cultivate your social life in grad school. You kind of have to take the reins on it a little bit. But Fortunately, you're surrounded by a lot of like-minded people. I've had a good experience with my peers. We do a lot together. We hang out. We do a ton of stuff. And my cohort and my peers in the department, I like most of these people quite a lot. My advisor and committee are really less roped into my social life. They're like not really a part of my social life unless we're doing a departmental gathering or like a paleo group gathering. But it's good to have a good rapport with them, and I generally do have a good rapport with them. And so you appreciate each other not just as like science robots, but as complete people on both ends. Like it's good that your advisor recognizes that you're a person, but it's also good that you recognize that they are. And so like if you send them an email and you're like, "Hey, I need this," and they don't get to it, you're not like, "I can't believe you didn't do that." It's like everyone, unless these relationships can vary, but it's important to remember that you're all people and often just trying to do your best.
Your social life when you're a graduate student is really important. And I don't mean that. I think there's different ways people mean a social life. And I think that there are productive and unproductive ways to have one. I've certainly known like people in PhD programs who are like, my social life is very important to me, and then have a social network that's completely divorced from academia or like what they're doing. And like basically make it like, I'll hang out with you people when we're at work, but outside of that, you aren't my friends. And I find that that's not a particularly rewarding way to go through grad school. Like anecdotally, I don't know a lot of people who wind up like tremendously successful with that kind of an attitude. And it's not always mean-spirited. Like sometimes it's just like, well, I've got like all my life's over here. And that's fine. I think it's important to try to get to know the people in your cohort. Like the one thing that I'll always kind of regret about my own PhD, and this is just a function of how small the AM&H program is that like every time I would come up to visit Yale and like hang out with Alex and Dalton and everything, what always struck out to me was like, what a robust circle of fellow students you guys have. Like just... It
is robust.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Just like so many people like kind of in your court who you can talk to about scientific problems or any personal problems or whatever. And like, you've got a huge support system when you have a lot of friends, because you're all going through a period of acute stress at the same time. And I'm not talking right now about the Yaleys in particular, although at least one of them is going through a period of acute stress at this exact time.
Yes.
But like doing a PhD is really hard and it's really unique, right? It is a stressor that nobody's going to understand from your life. Maybe people who go through law school or med school will have a way of appreciating the intensity of it. But like most of my extended family, when they learned I was doing my PhD at the American Museum of Natural History, thought I was like designing new exhibits. Like you just don't get it. And that's fine. They're not scientific researchers. They don't understand that a museum's a research institution or what a PhD even means. Like, I think they thought I was like doing maintenance on them. I think maybe if they had like the most understanding of paleo, they'd think I was a preparator like Scott. Like that, I think would be the closest that like many people who are not academics would come to like understanding what you're doing in the day to day if you're working on fossils, right? I think it's important for everybody's success a little bit to try to cultivate relationships with their fellow graduate students, because that is the only group of people who gets what you're doing and gets how hard it is, right?
Yeah,
and like,
that's good advice.
If you're stressed and you like, one of my best friends from high school, who's like still a close friend of mine, is an ER resident right now. He actually just got an attending position.
Wow.
And I didn't know this before, but Amelia is also an ER resident. I didn't know.
There we go.
Sorry, had to make the joke. Although that character's not a resident, right? No, she's a resident. But anyway, like, that friend of mine gets how intense going through this stuff is. But I think also because he is an ER doctor, when I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I've been really stressed with work and don't have time to hang out, I think he's like, James.
Yeah, sure.
Like, okay. Like, we had multiple gunshot wounds in last night, James. Like, it's...
Did you have a hard time playing with dinosaur bones?
Right, exactly. Exactly. But if I tell these guys I'm having a hard time with work, they all get it.
We get it.
Right, they know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
They they can be empathetic. And so I think, like, there's a tremendous amount of value in having those relationships. Not just like, I don't mean just as a support system to trauma dump on, but also like, if you're having trouble learning how to do something, having friends who know how to help you out with that is really useful, right? If you are like, hey, have you ever read any papers that mention this? Knowing somebody like Alex, who's got like a photographic memory for every paper he's ever read, can be helpful. If you're like, Alex, I sometimes feel like I can ask, in what panel of this figure can you see this trait? And I feel like you're going to be like, oh yeah, Carpenter 2002 figure 5 panel B.
Yeah, I mean, for a time, and then they will fade as the new thing I have to read a million things about.
Well, right,
replaces them.
What I'm saying is, like, these things are helpful, and so I have found that,
say, if I need to do any kind of math,
right, in that case, I become slightly more helpful.
Yes,
and that is like, that's a good aspect of what doing a PhD is like. It is nice when there's a robust social circle. And the only, like, kind of structural negative I would say about the AM&H program is that you don't have that amount of social circle because there are just not as many students. So your chances of meeting people you vibe with is smaller. Yale has thousands of graduate students. Not in geology.
In our department alone.
Right. In my lab, there are thousands. But, like, at the AM&H, there are 16 graduate students, 16 to 20 graduate students total at any one time.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So I would say my experience has generally been that I've made very, very close lifelong friends. Many of them are on this call right now. But I'm pleased to say not all of them are, just from the perspective of it's nice to have other friends.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, it's nice. And, of course, your friends aren't only other PhD students. I met Scott through doing my PhD at the AM&H. I would not have met Scott otherwise.
Yes, and my answer to this question was, I don't know that much about being in one of these fancy PhD programs, but what I do know is sometimes you meet a cool preparator and you become friends. So,
exactly.
I don't know much biology.
Yeah, and it's not really a secret that I've had a pretty rough time of a PhD program so far, and part of that is actually because of exactly what these guys have said, in that I started the program in 2020, which means that we basically were prohibited from hanging out, like, for a while, which really was hard, and it continued to be hard. Like, even after the, in-person restrictions lifted, it was really hard. And like I would say, like my cohort, like we definitely tried, to do stuff together, and we did do stuff together. I would say we're pretty close. But like I'm more in the timeline of this where we could have had a normal time, because like I got along really well with my cohort, and with the Gilder School, like there are fewer students, but they mostly jive together. Like somehow the program does wind up attracting a group of people that overall tends to get along with each other. I remember that like from when I interviewed, and obviously from my time being here. So I personally have not had a great time, just because of COVID kind of putting, a haze over that aspect of it. And other things that were kind of to varying degrees related or not related to COVID that screwed up my early trajectory in the program in such a way that it was very difficult for me to build and maintain social circles, which have made the program immensely more difficult. Professionally, my experience interacting with peers, like at conferences and stuff, I think we haven't mentioned that aspect of it because this does say peers. It's fun. You get to meet people from around the world that think like you do and work on animals that you all think are interesting. And every now and then you get to meet up at a conference in a cool place and go hang out together. And that's really fun. And then as far as my advisor and my committee have been great. Like I always love to meet with them and talk with them. Like we don't do it super frequently, but like we get along really well. I like talking to them just socially. Yeah, so that's all been good, but yeah, I guess to further support the points that the others have made, that like the social circles of other graduate students are extremely important, and I would say I'm a case of what happens when you don't have that, which is it's a lot harder.
Cool.
Alex, you have an answer written. Would you like to share it?
Briefly, most of this has been covered. Yeah, I mean, honestly, having a lab and having like people you see daily and interact with and like think about things with is kind of, I think, an important thing and an upside to a PhD. A sense, because it's a sense of community a little bit. It's nice to see your peers. In terms of like your committee and your advisor, I think it's important that you have a friendly and respectful relationship with your advisor. I don't think they should be your friend.
I think they should become your friend ideally.
After. Once they can become your friend. And they shouldn't be your parent.
Yes.
These are sometimes when you hear about things that don't work out, it's usually because it is either a absent advisor or a overbearing advisor. You kind of want someone in the middle, and it's nice if you get along. It's cool. They'll invite you over for events. You and the rest of the lab hang out, and that's good. You want a respectful and friendly relationship, and you want friends in your lab. I am going to say that I think it is important that you also have friends outside of your lab.
I do too.
Others have suggested. Oh yeah, no.
Sorry. Just in case it sounded like I didn't.
That
think
was not in response to.
Got it.
No. If you have no friends, I guess you have gaining friends in your lab. You can only keep getting more friends, but it's nice, right? Like if the lab implodes, which doesn't always happen, which doesn't usually, which rarely happens.
It doesn't always happen.
But
yeah,
look out.
If like there's some disaster, some firing, something horrible that happens in the lab, or like there's a huge there's animosity or something. It's good to have people you can lean on that aren't in your lab. That's it. That's about all I got to say. Have a varied social life, and I would also strongly recommend not dating in your lab cohort.
Yes.
It works for some people, but not most.
Well, just be judicious as you would if you were with coworkers. You doing a PhD with anything social is difficult because like it is both work and school in a very real way. And I think that does make it difficult for many people to know like what are you supposed to do or not supposed to do. And like how do you like square this in any aspect of your life? Like many people have whatever your own baggage from your own relationship with your parents is. Many people carry that with them in their relationship with their advisors. This is not uncommon. And to some degree might be unavoidable because you now have the advisor who's like kind of your boss, kind of your mentor. Yep. And because the only person you've had in your life who's kind of your boss and kind of your mentor before is your parents, probably, where they've got like official responsibility and power over you, but also are supposed to be a trusted person to learn from. I think it's normal for those wires to get crossed. I think it's like similar a little bit with like lab mates. Like say you have a crush on your lab mate or something. It feels kind of like you're in class with the person in middle school or high school and you want to ask them out on a date, but they're also your coworker. And if things go poorly in some way, you're going to have to see them every day for the next 6 years.
Yep.
So just consider that. It's just a lot. There's a lot of difficult. Doing a PhD is weird because there's not a. I think it's just a weird and difficult thing, fundamentally, because there's not really a model for it that we experience elsewhere in our lives. Like, it's one thing I notice even when I teach medical students is like, because med school feels like school, I think, the students have a much more normal student-to-student dynamic than fellow PhD students do. Like, I don't mean that in like necessarily a good or bad way, but like it feels much more like how I felt in college, where like they're all classmates and they like are talking about like parties and vacations and trips, and they all they all take their breaks and they go home to their various places and then they come back, which is not how PhDs usually are. It's, you know, it's not like, 3-day weekend I'm going to go like, you know, usually it's not on a 3-day weekend I'm going to go visit my parents, unless you're lucky enough to do your PhD quite close to where you grew up, like I did. But I still spent many a 3-day weekend at work. Like I did, you know, you don't really have breaks, right?
Jesus Christ. Right.
The phrase, "What are you doing over spring break?" is something that shocks me every time I hear it from my medical students. Because I'm just like, what are you talking about? Anyway.
It is very funny to interact with students in that way. And it's just like, oh yeah, I guess that was spring break. It was just another week for me.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Anyone else have anything they want to say to this? Because it is almost 1.
I'm like the Joker. Spring break's just like another week for me.
Fuck. Damn. He's so twisted.
Our next question comes to us from RestyHBK. Says, congrats, you're getting a movie about yourself. Who are you choosing to play you? And this is a tricky question. I don't have an answer written down, but I've got some thoughts that I've cooked up.
Now, I'm sorry, everybody, but I have an idea.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Dalton, I'm sorry. You can
group
continue.
Activity.
I think this has to be a group activity. I think we should answer, but I do think other people need to propose a counter argument if they.
Oh, I agree.
Good, because I don't have an answer.
I was hoping to get input from the group because I'm struggling a little bit because I've put myself. The way I chose to go about this is I put myself through face filters of like, what celebrity do you look like?
And who do you look like?
Well, and like I know that looks are only a part of it, obviously. Well, the first result, and actually the one that I think I might agree with the most, is Sage Stallone, who is Sylvester Stallone's son. And we can maybe cut this or leave it out, who I did not know existed and learned passed away in 2012 at the age of 36, very tragically.
Oh.
I can kind of see it.
Sure.
That's very sad. So
it
they
is
will
very
not be
sad.
playing you unless we digitally resurrect them?
No, they will not be doing that. Other filters have suggested various ranges of things some that I don't agree with, like Jack Black. Some that I kind of agree with a little bit, but I think it's mostly just because of the hair, like Dave Grohl, who's not an actor, and is much older than me. I wouldn't hate to be played by Dave Grohl, except he did do a naughty thing recently, quite naughty, in that he had an extramarital affair that resulted in a child. Oops. But he's a rock star, so like, is it surprising? I don't know. Not condoning it, but again, I'm not surprised.
Excusing it.
And then the other thing is this one particular filter has provided a result that I've gotten before when I've done this. Every once in a while, you'll do that. Like, I don't, not like even once a year, but like I've done this before where I'm like, what celebrities do we look like? A link will come up and it's like, put up a photo. We're definitely going to use this photo for nefarious purposes, but you'll get a little, a haha,
a little dopamine.
And for some reason, this has happened at least twice now where the thing has come up and said, I look like Paul Giamatti. And I don't know.
You don't.
I don't think I see that
like Paul Giamatti
at all. But I like Paul Giamatti as an actor. But I don't also think that he would be great at playing me. So I don't know is the answer. And does anyone else have any input?
For you? No.
You know what? Young Nick Cage.
Ooh. For Dalton.
Like Vampire's
Dalton.
Kiss Nick Cage?
Yeah. The beard is but I can see like there's a Cagean aspect.
Huh. I mean, I wouldn't hate that at all. I love Nick Cage.
Most of my casting choices are based on vibes as opposed to appearance.
No, I like that.
That would be my choice.
Yeah, you can do a lot with makeup and hairstyles and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, as people choose their next one, I will be back. But do not wait for me to say anything.
Mr. Drummond from Severance, Alex.
He's gone.
Of course.
Well, I'm just going to Google who this is.
He's an Icelandic actor named Dari Olafsson. Now, this is entirely exaggerated. The man is about like 6'6".
I admire that you think of me as such an imposing figure, but I'm certainly not the case.
No.
I think, who I think should play me in the movie?
There is a picture of him just sitting in the snow and smiling, and that's not very, very different from the pictures of him in the show.
Yeah, he seems to be a very nice man in real life, and he's a very scary man on that show.
You know who I think should play me on that note, actually, is Hafthor Bjornsson.
Oh, really?
Or the mountain. No, I don't know. But perhaps we'll circle around that and we'll just move on and we can coalesce and maybe we should talk about Scott a little bit.
Maybe we should talk about Scott.
Let's talk Scott.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember there was a prompt on something I saw ages ago that was just like, what celebrity do people say you look like? I've never gotten one.
No, me neither.
I've literally never had anybody just go like, you know what, you look like, and I don't know. It's never really been something that's like stuck out to me or anything. So I am open and accepting all ideas.
Well, there's not an actor, but whoever that was that showed up on my Facebook feed that I thought was you briefly.
That person.
Oh yeah, from one of the band members of Rainbow Kitten Surprise.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Right.
Oh, Scott, I know exactly who's playing you.
Oh please, who?
A young John Goodman.
Oh yeah,
I could see that.
That could work. Who else came to my mind is Jonah Hill.
Okay.
Find a picture of John Goodman when his hair was long.
The tone of okay. That
I sense you don't love this.
I don't know. I'm thinking about it. Well, it was also I was typing in young John Goodman, and I have about 4 active brain cells at the moment.
Fair enough.
So, honestly, I can kind of see young John Goodman. I can actually really see young John Goodman.
I am so good.
I'll throw this in chat. Give this man a beard and glasses, and that's not far off.
It's a good pull.
See?
And
it's not
absolutely
not
love
because
John
you're big.
Goodman,
I feel like
too.
John Goodman's vibe is not exactly Scott's vibe, though.
I think.
Do you not see him being smiley and friendly?
No, he is, but in a much more gruff way.
That's
Scott's
fair.
not a gruff man.
Nah.
I don't think John Goodman only does gruff though. John Goodman's very versatile.
Mm-hmm.
Now here. Now. Oh no. I'm just going to say who I think should play Scott.
Please do.
I think Vincent Kartheiser, who played what's his name on Mad Men. What's his name? Pete Campbell. I think he has a Scott-like vibe in his hair and facial hair and general facial features, and he's a very, very good actor. And I could see him being Scott's brand of jovial.
Okay.
Because you've got.
Did we lose Alex? By the way,
we seem to have lost Alex.
All right, but continue.
Because like you've got a clean. You don't have like gruff Midwestern guy energy, even though you were from the Midwest. Like you've got there's a metro quality to it a little bit. Perhaps
that's fair.
You've adopted this by diffusion from the big city that you found yourself in.
No, that's fair.
That's
fair.
why I don't agree with the John Goodman aspect, because like I think John Goodman has a much more. You don't have a blue collar vibe. I hate to tell you this, Scott.
No, that's understandable.
You don't. Oh no,
it's updating. Okay, well that's fine. We'll get back to that. Okay, I like that, James. I like young John Goodman. I like what you said. The person whose name I already forgot,
Vincent
Pete Campbell.
Vincent Kartheiser, yeah.
Or Vincent Kartheiser is the actor, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Pete Campbell's a piece of shit. I don't say this because I think he's like the character on Mad Men.
I haven't seen Mad Men, so
no, I know media literacy is getting to a point where people can't comprehend verbal things anymore. So I'm just saying, the fact that I think the actor who played Pete Campbell should play Scott does not mean that I think Scott is like Pete Campbell, a character who's a fictional person who that actor played once.
That's fair. Well, we can very quickly get Amelia's out of the way.
Yeah, we can.
You guys all apparently have an answer, which is fine because I don't.
Amelia, what's your self-assessment?
I don't know. Like, I really don't know. I don't like. A, I don't think I watch enough movies. B, I don't retain enough actor and actress information.
Fair.
Me up here Googling actors and actresses.
That's.
I know.
Did
I'm
I
not.
tell you?
You've told me the story. I'm not gonna put this person on blast on our channel.
No, it was so funny. After we're done, it was really funny. But that's how I feel. Yeah, even though I make fun of that person. The only thing anyone has ever told me, and this was A, years ago, and B, I think wrong, was someone like when I was in middle or high school told me I looked like Taylor Swift. And I'm like, is that just because I'm blonde?
I think it was just because you were blonde.
Like, and also, like, I feel like that every time this happens in general, that tends to be the only similarity. Blonde and sometimes glasses. I'm like, congratulations, I don't look anything like that.
I'm gonna throw two more out for me who I wouldn't hate. These are both I don't tremendously think are, the physical similarities are middling but could be managed. But I like both of these actors for various reasons that I think it could work. Is either Aaron Taylor Johnson or Adam Devine.
Aaron Taylor Johnson I see more than Adam Devine. Isn't Adam Devine slowly dying also?
Adam Devine?
Did we not hear about this? Maybe I'm the only one who knows about this. Basically, he was in a horrible accident when he was 11. He was hit by a cement truck, which dragged him about 500 feet on the road. And he apparently is his health is apparently just constantly deteriorating.
Oh my God, that's horrible.
It's one of the worst things I've ever heard of.
I love him. He's so funny.
He was apparently at high risk of having to have his legs amputated and went into multiple organ failure, but survived.
I very frequently think of in those compilations of greatest line delivery ever. Every once in a while, that one of him when he in that one sketch comedy show or whatever that he was in, where he accidentally was hanged for a couple seconds and then they cut him down and he's crying about how he almost died, is one of the funniest deliveries I've ever seen. I'll throw it in chat while we're waiting for Alex, because I want to hear his. I bet he has strong opinions on who should play James.
I'm sure
Probably.
he does.
I don't know who I would say should play James.
I'm waiting with bated breath. However, wait, did we talk about how Amelia is played by Taylor Dearden yet? Or
no, I couldn't remember her name and I knew you'd be looking it up.
Yes, Taylor Dearden, yeah. Bryan Cranston's daughter, who plays Dr. Mel King on The Pit, who is alarmingly Amelia-esque in character portrayal and everything. She's a great character. None of this is a dig, of course, but she's like, it is alarming. Every time the camera cuts to her, I do feel a little bit of the like, oh, hey.
I found the clip.
Yeah,
I put
that's
it in
fair.
chat.
Well, I'll see this clip, and then we got to think about James a little bit.
We do. I did once joke to my friends that I should be played by George Costanza from Seinfeld, and they all laughed enough that I was like, I guess that's the answer. That's fine.
I can kind of see George, though.
I know.
You're played by George, not by Alexander.
I'm played by George Costanza.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, no, knowing the kind of neurotic weirdo that Jason Alexander can play, I'm sure I would be a cakewalk for him after having to portray George Costanza.
I guess, do we want to take this opportunity to discuss what we think for Alex?
Ooh. Oh, you mean young Jack Black?
Well, he's gone. I don't mean young Jack. I also am like cagey about this young casting because, like, do we have a time machine? Well, we don't have a real movie. It doesn't matter.
This isn't a real movie.
I'm not so convinced about young Jack Black because I think it's really just that one photo, and I don't think Jack Black has ever played a character like Alex.
No,
that's true. I don't think he has.
I do. I want him to give his own answers, but I think of the three that he gives, one of those would work. The other two, I think he just wishes. He had to have typed these one hand. These are the most.
Well, this is mostly just actors I really like.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
my favorite actors.
Yeah,
which they're all great actors.
Maybe Robert Pattinson, William Dafoe, or Steve Buscemi.
And I feel like he threw Buscemi in there as a way
to soften the blow. It's like
to be like, well, and here's a non-traditionally attractive one.
Right, a little bit.
Yeah.
Alex does look startlingly like also James Gandolfini when he was young only. Basically, you put any weight on James Gandolfini's bones, he stops looking like Alex.
I just Googled young Alex.
Young Alex.
I Googled young Alex and it showed me my roommate's baby pictures.
I hear Dalton likes his Alex as young.
I'm not so much seeing the young James Gandolfini.
There's
either.
one particular picture.
Kind of.
There's a little bit. There's a couple of them. Yeah.
I can kind of see it. Yeah.
Kind of. You know who I actually think might be even more Alex-esque is James Gandolfini's son.
Oh, you know what? You're right. I think Michael Gandolfini is not a bad choice.
Oh no! Yeah. That's good.
That is good.
Actually, that's who I think I would do it. That's who I would cast.
This gets much harder if they do have to be actors who are roughly the right age to portray us.
It is. It's a lot trickier.
Oh, it's impossible.
It's difficult. Well, like, who are the current actors and actresses?
I don't know. What are there? 10 of them?
Well, right. Well, I mean, like, Amelia Taylor Dearden is about right. Taylor Dearden's like 31 or 32 or something like that.
Yeah.
So like that's fine. Michael Gandolfini is on the young side to be Alex, but I think it works actually.
Mm-hmm.
John Goodman has a couple years on me.
John Goodman's on the older
I've
end.
just Googled actors in their 30s.
Okay.
And so far we're not really hitting exactly anything towards us. I don't think any of us are Glenn Powell.
No.
I don't know. On my good days. You haven't seen me do my hair.
I know we've joked. Well, I've joked about James being Timmy Chalamet, but I don't think that would actually work in practice.
I also wouldn't want him to play me.
No.
Actually, you know who could maybe do a James?
Oh, no.
This is nice.
Oh, okay.
Is Jeremy Allen White?
Is this nice? I have not watched The Bear.
No. The Bear's... James, from what I've heard, if you like The Pit, you'll like at least aspects of The Bear.
Flattering. I think that Joseph Quinn, one of the co-emperors from Gladiator 2, could do very well as either Dalton or Scott. Facially, I think he's constructed the right way to play either role. No, the one who the less sickly of the two.
Okay. Oh, the new Mr. Fantastic. I'll take that.
Yeah, that guy.
I also want to point out.
And Eddie from Stranger Things.
Oh, was he on Stranger Things?
Yeah. I'll take that.
Young John Goodman was not fat.
No.
We've also decided this should be harder, and that we have to choose somebody who's actually roughly the right age. We can't just like teleport back 40 years and kidnap John Goodman to play Scott.
I see. Okay,
it's more fun this way.
And I have proposed Jeremy Allen White for James.
And then that's why there's that picture that was just pasted into our chats.
What I'm curious, what was the relevance of the Workaholics clip?
Oh, I put forward Adam Devine for myself.
I like that.
Mostly vibes based, not looks based.
And I brought up that the Workaholics clip where he like hangs for like a couple seconds is one of the funniest deliveries I've ever seen. He sells it so hard.
Great. But I think, unless anyone has any final points on this matter, while we haven't, we don't have the cast list to post on the wall and have all the theater kids come and see who they're playing. We've got enough to forward to the casting director that you all can now make your own informed decisions. And it's time probably to move on. Our next question comes to us from our next and last question even comes to us from Dino Nerd 1, who asks, what are your favorite traditions or things to do around the holidays? And I took this to be the winter holidays because this was December. And I myself, me personally, I'm a fan of a cozy Christmas. I like staying inside and being in my pajamas as long as possible during the day. I think if I had my way, if I could just stay on the couch all day, I would on Christmas. Like, I like to just be home and be warm and be with my very close family. And, I like a Christmas dinner is nice, but I'm actually, our tradition in Colorado with just me and my mom was we would do prime rib on Christmas. But even that, like, it is a fancy dish, I suppose, but we wouldn't like serve it too fancily. Like, it would just, we'd like kind of like lackadaisically tend to it throughout the day. And then at the end of the day, have a nice dinner, but nothing like, we're not like setting the table or making up like a Thanksgiving style spread. It's like, this is just a nice
roast beast
thing. I like a more boisterous New Year's Eve party.
Let me tell you,
that's where I like to have fun is at a New Year's Eve party and like go out and dress up a little bit, have a good time.
Good.
And yeah, I wrote that the roast, the prime rib on Christmas, and then me and my mom would often do crab legs on New Year's Eve. I like those culinary traditions a lot, but have not really been able to keep them up in grad school.
All right. I respect that. Next.
Scott.
Yeah. I kind of just love the entire way that we do Christmas. We have a whole, like, the vibe that we do Christmas with is a blast. So the biggest thing is all of us are huge fans of surprising everybody with the gifts that we're giving. Like, even from a young age, I never wanted to know what I was getting for Christmas. I was never one of those kids that would just like try to sneak and like steal stuff and like find out like open up a package or stuff like that. Like, I always wanted to be surprised on Christmas. And so we have a tradition in my family where basically, when we wrap presents for everybody, we put little hints on them of what they are, just to extend out the pageantry and stuff a bit. This takes us all damn day. Like, it is only ever like one person opening a gift at a time. Everybody's like paying attention to that person opening that gift. We all have like a little chat about what it is and how we're going to use it afterwards. And we just like savor the moment, and it takes the whole day. The dog really likes to help us open Christmas presents because he loves to pull the tissue paper out of the bags and tear it up. He'll even be very careful with unwrapping. He'll like grab a corner and like tear it off a box. It's very cute. But like we have so much fun with it. We have a lot of culinary traditions as well. Generally my mom makes this like sausage casserole thing for breakfast in the morning that we have with the like specifically the Stouffer's scalloped apples, like the microwave ones. They're so good, and they make a really good little breakfast side dish. We have coffee and like like pumpkin bread and stuff like that in the morning, and then we'll do a prime rib at night as well. And that's when my dad really like doesn't beat the engineer allegations, because he has this spreadsheet running, I think, at least 20 years of the weight of the prime rib, how long it was in the oven, including like atmospheric conditions when we cooked it, the way, like how long it was in the oven, how long the oven was off with it sitting in there, any modifications to the recipe, and then like the price that it was when he bought it, and then any like subjective notes of how did it taste. And he has refined this recipe to a T. It is literally perfect every time. It's so good. And it's a blast. And our big last thing that we do is we ended off with everybody on the tree has a little like openable present ornament, or in my mom's case, it's this big like letters to Santa tube, and they are called our BTI boxes, our big ticket item boxes. Whatever is like the biggest, flashiest thing that someone gets for Christmas, they have basically a little scavenger hunt in there, where it's like, it is over here, it's in the place that you think that you would use it, or something like that, and you have to go find it and then bring it back, and then we open it, and it's a whole big thing. And sometimes it's even just like a hint to a larger thing, that because it's like, we couldn't hide this, so here's this, it's actually in the garage, or something like that. And it's so much fun. Again, it takes us all damn day, and I love it so much.
That's
Lovely.
very cute. What is... Oh, God. Yeah.
Alex, you've written response next.
Yes. So the holiday season, in my opinion, begins with Halloween and ends around New Year's. So the quick version of this is Halloween is the best, and I love Halloween, perhaps unsurprisingly. When I was young, I liked to trick or treat. Now I like to give out candy in costume, as we said in the past video. And when I'm home, my parents used to throw a little party on the front lawn. In addition, we gave out candy, to be clear, but we also made squash soup.
Squoop, if you will.
It was delicious. From there, is the long haul to then Thanksgiving, which we don't usually do anything particularly odd for. It's just that, whatever, who cares? Fun meal with the fam. And then comes Crimbus. And that's special. We have a variety of rituals. When I was younger, what we would do was we would go to midnight mass, because we don't want to do that shit in the morning, because that's lame. And then we'd get back, and then breakfast, and we still do this. We would get like the Pillsbury Doughboy cinnamon.
Like, ooh.
Yeah,
Nice.
we make those for breakfast and bacon, and delish. And then we just kind of hang around Christmas Day and take it easy. What we would then do is the day after, the 26th or the 27th, we either went to my dad's family or my mom's family. And the dad's side is pretty normal, hang out, Christmas party. But on the mom's side, and she's the Italian, we would go to her sister's place in Hamden. And we would do all the fish, as the kids are calling it.
You wouldn't stop at 7?
No, we're doing 8.
Oh my
What's
God.
the 8th fish?
No, we would do 7 fish, which if you know, you know. If you don't, I'm sorry. One year, my grandfather got into a fight with one of my elder cousins because my cousin tried to do all 7 fish on one sushi boat. He's like, "What the fuck's the matter with you? You still not?" He was great. We love Emil. Yeah. Anyway, so then we would do 7 fish, and my grandfather, he's passed, but he would, it's like, I don't want to hear these kids whining about their presents. We do it later in the evening, and he would ring a bell when it was time for that, and then everyone would go in, and we'd all hang out and have have a fun time unwrapping stuff. And be like, what the fuck? Always interested in what people got, we'll say.
Can you please duplicate the sound of your grandfather being interested in what somebody got?
Oh, he would always get me exactly what I wanted because I was his favorite.
Oh, I see.
Yes. Yes. I've been told I picked up some of the emo mannerisms. Anyway,
it sounds like you have.
Anyway, so yeah, that would be the Christmas, and then we go home. Everyone has a fun time. Usually, in past Christmases, when I was like in middle school and elementary school, I'd get a big Lego as part of Christmas, and then I would just kind of the whole time we were out at other family events, being like, I would like to go back and continue building my big Lego, please. Not so much anymore, but people don't buy me; that I have to buy them for myself. Then after that, a recent tradition is, New Year's parties. I like to have a fun New Year's. I like to go to fun New Year's parties with my friends, and then don't you grin, Dalton? We would dress up, do little costumes. They didn't go to the New Year's party, and then several days later, we do the whole holiday season is rounded out with the 12th night party and the King's Cake. And by that point, I have recovered from the hangover that I have usually secured during New Year's. And if you've never done a 12 nights party, also very fun.
This all sounds very fun.
Yeah, it's a hoot, and we do that with my dad's side of the family. Usually, interestingly, the German Catholic side of our family, which is
that's a combination.
It is. It is. Anyway, so yeah, fun. I always have a lovely time. All right.
Well, so my holiday traditions. Like Alex in my family, the holiday season always it actually starts prior to Halloween in my family. We had a series of traditions going on. In September, I guess it would be Labor Day weekend. No, it wouldn't be Labor Day weekend. Maybe it was... We'd always get the Jewish holidays off because I went to public school in New York State. So we just blanket for the state, get off for like Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah, a series of Jewish holidays, which if you're not familiar with them, usually happen in September. I think occasionally Rosh Hashanah could be in October. But regardless, we'd get a long weekend around this. No, I'm sorry. It wasn't the Jewish holidays. It was a different event. We had, and I'm very sad that it's gone now. It seems to have not survived COVID. There was a local event called the Setauket Apple Festival, which was in a town near Stony Brook, near where I grew up. And the Apple Festival was this wonderful, fall apple harvest themed thing where they would have it was held on the grounds of one of the historic homes in the area, that dates back to the 1700s. And they would have people doing colonial era open fire cooking with different apple sorts of things. They'd have fresh brewed apple ciders, pony rides for the kids, craft tables and things places you can sell wooden trinkets you make or whatever. Hay rides, sack races, all of that kind of stuff. I love this. I was so excited to have moved back here to be able to do the Apple Festival, and I found out it has not been held since 2020 or 2019, I think, which just devastating. It is such a sad thing to not have anymore. I loved the smell of the open campfires when they'd be just cooking apple fritters and things like that. Anyway. After that, which would always be in late September, my family would drive out east on Long Island to a farm called Fox Hollow Farms, where we would get an enormous pumpkin. Fox Hollow is known locally for having just a kind of tradition where they grow really, really large pumpkins that you can buy for your Halloween displays. And we're talking barely fitting in the back of my dad's pickup truck, big pumpkins, enormous. So we'd drive that all the way back. It would be maybe an hour and 15 minutes away. And we'd then back the truck onto the front yard and then try the very, very delicate process of getting the pumpkin out onto bales of hay that we would buy just to support it. And that would form the kind of nucleus of our Halloween display. So in September, we start the whole process of setting stuff up, and we have gourds and corn and scarecrows and pieces of old electrical equipment that my dad spray painted to look like Frankenstein lab gear and everything. We'd always get very into Halloween and the decorating the house aspect. We really enjoyed that part quite a lot. Then Halloween would happen. I'd go out trick-or-treating with all of my sisters and the neighborhood kids, because we had enough families in the neighborhood that it was always like a very tight-knit thing, which I always really liked. And then I'd come home, and then we'd usually have some close family friends over, and they would come in the door, and they would be like, "All right, James, what do you want for Christmas?" And I was like, let me do some research. And then I'd start going online to whatever my hyperfixation was at that moment, and start just trying to put together a Christmas list while my mom finished making dinner. That was how this always went. Thanksgiving, we celebrate with the same family friends. They used to host a lot at their place. Now we host a lot at our place. And then for Christmas, things are generally fairly low-key. We started a tradition when I was in high school of doing a Festivus party on the 23rd, which we've done many times since, and I think we're going to pick back up again, where we would we'd put up the aluminum pole, and it was basically we'd invite all of our neighbors, like our whole street. But then also me and my sisters and both my parents would just invite whatever friends they want without any real discussion about who's coming and how they'll interact with each other. So Festivus was always kind of the biggest event. There have been a few years we haven't done it. COVID obviously have stopped it, and we didn't wind up doing it this year. But we're gonna I think get it started again. Very fun to just kind of have like a random spattering of people. We'd usually just cater it, so we didn't even have to work that hard. So it's just like the house is full of people and they're all milling about. And it's like, kids and adults and older people and everything, coworkers, just it's fun. Christmas itself, most of my extended family lives in New York City, so we would usually be driving in there somewhere to spend Christmas Day. And because that was our usual tradition, Christmas morning has always been very frenetic in our family, especially because there were 3 of us growing up. So this thing that Scott has described, where it takes the whole day and you all wait patiently to open presents, and everybody gets attention paid to them while they open presents, is very foreign to me. This is also how my girlfriend's family does it, and spending Christmas with them this year was like an interesting cultural study for me, to see what it's like to do presents that way. Presents in my house were like a blisteringly fast affair. Chaos. We'd wake up, all run downstairs, ripping just tearing the paper off as fast as we could, looking at what we got. It was great. We'd get about an hour or 2 in the morning to do anything we wanted, because then it was like, okay, everybody has to go get bathed and dressed nice and all of that, and then we're going into an extended family in the city for Christmas. Because we're now adults, at one point my sister was like, we can come up with a new tradition. And because my sister is not the most patient person in the world, that new tradition is we don't even wait for Christmas morning to open presents in this house.
Jesus.
It started because my mom started doing this thing, which I like and we still do, where on Christmas Eve, we would all get one gift to open that was always a new set of pajamas that we'd then change into, and then watch some Christmas movies and drink hot chocolate and everything like that. It's
That's
very
lovely.
Sweet. And then one of my sisters was like, what if at midnight we just opened our presents, because we're all adults and we know that Santa Claus isn't real now. And we were like, fine. And that's just slipped to I don't know, it's 7 p.m. on Christmas Eve. Just open the presents. It's fine. Does this make Christmas very anticlimactic? Absolutely. That's the answer. It's very nice. We have never been particularly high key for New Year's Eve. I have never been to a fun New Year's Eve party at all. I would like to change that at some point. Yeah, at some point we got to change that. But Christmas or New Year's Eve rather has usually been me with my family. We watch the ball drop and then we go to bed. That's a Napoli family Christmas.
All right.
Well, oh shit. I guess
Amelia. Did you go already? I've forgotten, or no?
No, I haven't gone yet. I'm just trying. I'm last, right?
Yes.
I think so. Okay. Nothing in particular for Halloween. I do like Halloween a lot, but also having been away now from home for 5 years, it's harder to do festivities. But when I was at home, like I did like to go trick or treating when we were younger. I'm not a party kind of person. So like in college, like I didn't do much for Halloween. There was one Halloween party that I did have at college because it was at the house I was living in. That was pretty fun. It wasn't anything out of hand or anything, but it was a good time. Thanksgiving we talked about in the last Q&A, so I'm not going to rehash that. But Christmas for us is usually like we would do like family stuff on Christmas Eve, and then the day of was always we go to my grandpa's house on my mom's side. And that one is more of the Scott style of everyone takes turns opening things, like with my cousins and extended family and stuff. And that's how we did it, like within the family as well. But as I alluded to earlier, my dad's side is chaotic and loud, and everything happening all at once. And that date just kind of depends on everybody's schedules, like especially as we've gotten older. Like 3 of my cousins are nurses, so like trying to coordinate schedules gets difficult. So it's almost never on Christmas. And then New Year's also for us has always been very low key. Like usually like we'll have friends over or go to a friend's house, but it's not like a party. It's like we hang out and play video games and then watch the ball drop and go to bed. Nothing too out of hand, but yeah.
Well, that's all lovely.
Kick ass.
And I think with that concludes the December Q&A. And we'll see you all in the new year.
Yes, which is definitely not the year we're already in recording this video. Alex, stick around for one more second so I can read the patron credits.
Guys, no, stay back in 2024. It's better there. No, please.
Okay, so thank you to all of our patrons for asking questions. That's a 4-hour recording.
I don't know if we've ever done that before.
We have.
Aquatic DLC was over 5 hours of raw footage, I think. Cool. We're going to draw lots about who has to edit this one at some other point. But right now, we're going to thank you all for all the questions. And the people we have to thank include all of our patrons, and with the special verbal shout-out to insert nickname Benjamin Seepser, Christopher Bellis-Jones, Aaron Anderson, Adam Molos, Blacklight Virus, Black Spectral Pig, Brett Booth, Camphibia, ChaoticKaiju, Dinodom, Keenan Taylor, Kevin Preem, King Zasshu, Noah Riccio, RestyHBK, Squat Pump, The Wigster, Touch Connors, Wheat, Mrs. Website Baryonyx, and You've. Thank you all so much. We look forward to answering your January questions in our next scheduled Q&A video.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.